You listen to Kendrick and Matt on the Slip and Dip podcast.
Oh, beautiful, man. What is up, people? Welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast, episode 127, the last one of 2019. And we got 4 guests lined up for you. We'll get into that in just a second. Alongside me, as always, Kendrick Johnson. I am Matthew Wells. It's been a hell of a year, man. Hell of a year for combat sports. Hell of a year for the Slip and Dip podcast. Do you have a favorite moment off the top of your head for 2019 on the show?
On the show,
I kind of hit you with that out of nowhere.
Yeah, probably when Deontay Wilder came on the first time.
The first time was that okay? I just threw that at you out of nowhere.
It kicked off the year because it was a couple weeks after Fury. Remember, if I Fury beginning of December,
yeah,
we couldn't get him out to the beginning of January, so it kicked off the year after. Right?
That's true. That's true.
Oh, episode 100.
Episode 100. Yeah, he was on that. Rob Parker was on that. We had a strong year. Strong year 2019 for Slip and Dip podcast.
Check the archives.
Check the list. Check the list. You know what it is. On this week's show, the last one of 2019, we have good friends of the show. Geoff Neal, UFC welterweight, climbing up the rankings. You guys already know him. Prospect of the year in boxing, Vergil Ortiz Jr. is on the show, representing DFW area. Grand Prairie, if I'm not mistaken, is his area of the Metroplex that he's repping. Our man from Sherdog, formerly of Sherdog, Ant Walker, and Dan Canobbio is what are his outlets he's with? I know he does
BBC.
He
does a lot of
CompuBox stuff. Yeah, he's got his hands in a lot of different areas in the boxing game. So we talked to those gentlemen on this episode to close out the year, and we look ahead to the next year. To just kick off 2020 in a different way. Some things are shifting around. We'll talk about that. We won't dive into it now. But you guys just know changes are coming. Changes are coming.
Close off our Slip and Dip piece. I give for the MMA side, Fight of the Year, Israel Adesanya. Breakthrough Fight of the Year, Geoff Neal. And our Prospect of the Year is, I can't keep forgetting his name.
Oh, Shabazian?
Yes,
Shabazian.
Love that guy. All he do is win spectacularly. And then on the boxing side, of course, Prospect of the Year is the unanimous Prospect of the Year, Vergil Ortiz Jr., friend of the show. Fight of the Year, Canelo Alvarez. And Breakthrough Fight of the Year, it's hard to put my finger on that one this year. I still haven't.
You talking about for boxing or MMA?
Boxing.
Breakthrough Fighter of the Year for boxing. You could put Teofimo on that list.
Yeah, because he's not prospect no more. So
right.
I saw that Teofimo Lopez, whose dad said almost a year and a half ago that he was going to be champion by his 15th fight and fight Lomachenko and clear it all out. He's done 3. He's checked out 3 of those boxes.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all.
15-0. He just got his first belt. He's a champion, and then he got Lomachenko in April.
Right. Yeah. No, that'd be a good choice for that. And your other choices as well. I'm on board with them. We'll roll with them for now. But yeah, we're gonna get straight into the interviews because we got a relatively lengthy show this week. Hey, we got to close out the year strong, so we do it for guests that you guys are really going to enjoy these chats with these guys. Before we get to that, guys, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're listening on the Apple Podcast, leave us a review with 5 stars. We would appreciate it. It's something free you can do to help grow the visibility. Okay. Now, if you want to show some more support, hit that link right below there in the video description. We have a merch shop. Go pick yourself up a t-shirt or a hoodie. I'm rocking the hoodie right now. You see it. It's got the logo on it. It's got nice pockets in the front. And my favorite part is this thick hood in the back. You know, you get some hoodies that got them little bitch-ass hoods. This is a real thick hood right here. It's nice. It's nice and keeps you warm if you actually need to use it. So I'm just saying it's high-quality stuff. That's all I'm saying. So pick yourself up some stuff and help support the show. And we're going to kick off or close out 2019 very strong here. And, of course, like I said, changes are coming for 2020. I'm really excited about it. Kendrick's really excited about it. You guys should be really excited about it as well. So before we get to this, is there anything else you want to get to real quick?
I have a feeling 2020 is going to be better than even 2019. 2019 was a great decade for combat sports and boxing and MMA.
100%. 100%.
Especially MMA because it changed so much.
Yeah.
Like we literally saw Ronda Rousey's whole career in this decade. It was just crazy.
Yeah, that was the craziest thing when I was looking at the decade stuff. I was like, man, her entire career happened in this past 10 years. And it was like when you think of like a supernova or some shit. It's
That's
like
what she did.
And then, of course, she's gone off and doing other things now. So, hey, it's the fight game is not forever. And as we all know, it'll come at you fast in the form of a head kick, and things start going downhill real quick. But yeah, let's get to this interview, man. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate all the subscribers of the show, all of our listeners, everybody that comments every week, everybody that gives a thumbs up every week, all the retweets. We appreciate all the love. We hope to see you guys rocking with us in 2020, even more so, because, like I said, big things coming. So we'll get to the rest of the show. Enjoy it. Until next week, until next year, until next decade, we out.
Please welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast. He's getting the call, balling 2 weeks ago, fresh off the TKO, head kick of punches and destruction of Mike Perry at UFC 245. Geoff Heads of Steel Neal, and another Slip and Dippy Award winner, MMA Breakthrough Fight of the Year. Appreciate you coming on, and congrats for breaking through this year with not one, not two, but 3 finishes. No, 2 finishes, 3 dubs, and moving up in the top 15.
Yes, sir. It feels good. I appreciate y'all having me on.
How big a deal was it to get him finished, the fact that nobody's done it, and to do it so fast, that now looking back on it, because you can't control, like, hey, I'm going to do this in 2 minutes, but to do it and to do something that nobody's ever done and do it so fast, does that put like the extra bow, like the exclamation point of your 2019?
Yeah, and that was a goal going to the fight, you know what I mean? I wanted to do something, you know what I mean? It was a big fight on a big card. I knew I had to do something to make a name for myself, to like make people know me, you know what I mean? And like I'm going against Mike Perry, and he's been beat up. He's like had wars, but nobody's ever finished him. And that was my goal, to take him out. I didn't expect to do it that quick, but I got it done.
I gained you a fan because of my forgetfulness. I forgot my camera. I was at the Teofimo Lopez and Terrence Crawford fight in New York. So I had to go back from like to New Jersey, take the train, and like shit, I gotta get back to Madison Square Garden. So I'm Ubering when your fight come on, and I'm literally watching it in the back of the Uber. Yeah, like I'm going to do the London Bridge or whatever, heading to Madison Square Garden, and I was telling the Uber driver what was going on. Oh man, I had to look him up. She's googling you. Oh, it's a brother. He cute. I'm gonna watch his fights. So I got you a fan by forgetting my damn camera in New Jersey. True story. And I watched it in the back of an Uber since it was so quick. I literally thought, okay, I was timing it out. I'm like, he gonna get him out in the second round. I'll be walking through security. My man Geoff get him out of there. Geoff's like, no, take this. As soon as I was thinking that head kick came, and your man Mike was wobbling, and you did what you had to do. That's true story.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was for me personally. Like the fight played out exactly as I thought it was gonna play out. Like I wasn't surprised at all. At all. Like I mean, because you know the funny thing was I was
going out in the round. I thought it was second. I thought it was gonna be the same part for second round. I thought it was gonna last a little bit longer.
Nah, because because you know I know some people that subscribe to our channel saw the video that I made with you, the inside camp video, and the little clip I did with Coach Safe when I recorded with him after I got his little sound bites. He was like, Coach Safe was like, man, I didn't know what to say about Mike really, because he's not better than Geoff anywhere. And so I was like, well, you still gave him a good soundbite, but it also let me know that I was like, yeah, this fight's gonna be over quickly, and you found that opening very quickly, and I like how you guys talked about going to the body, opening up that head kick with the body kick first. And then boom, there it was. Night like yeah. One thing after the fight that I don't know how many people saw, but when Dana was up at the podium during the post-fight scrum, one of the reporters brought you up. It was like, "Oh, what do you think about the Geoff Neal fight?" And nobody had talked about Geoff Neal to him before, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I got to send that kid some money." So can you confirm if Dana sent you a little bit extra money?
I can tell by his eyebrows, by his people eyebrow.
I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see if that happens, because usually when they do like the bonuses, it's like a month after the fight or a month and a half. You know what I mean? When I got my $50,000 bonus, like I didn't think I was getting it because it took so long to come in.
Yeah.
But it takes a while before they send it.
Oh yeah, we heard about that. I heard from 2 fighters specifically about how to wait for the test to clear, and like you know, basically like if you're gonna have to change your life for the year, like you gonna have to wait for 2 months before you can pay out that stuff the rest of the year.
Straight up. Yeah.
So what's your mindset now? You already focused on 2020, and do you think you can they'll let you be as active as you were this past year?
Yeah, I'm focused on 2020, and I'm only going to be as active as the welterweight division is. You know what I mean? If stuff's moving around, if they got people waiting to fight certain people, then I won't get any action. But if everybody in the welterweight division is taking fights and wanting to fight, then I'll be that active. You know, because I'll fight anybody ahead of me. You know what I mean? Like 10, 11, like you know what I mean? Any of those people. So I plan on getting back in there around March, April.
From talking to other trainers and stuff like that, like you're kind of in a position where you got to stay ready, right? Like for you to get the opportunity, it might be on a short notice. Does that change your approach? I know we haven't seen you in short notice fights like that.
Yeah, I mean that 2019 was pretty much the same thing. You know what I mean? I fought Bilal, and then my coach wanted me to get it. He wanted a ranked opponent, so he was just telling me, he's like, "Hey, you need to stay ready because somebody might fall off one of these cards, and we'll just throw you in there." You know what I mean? And that's what I did from fucking January until I got the Nico Price fight. I pretty much got the Nico Price fight because I just needed to fight. It was too long about a fight. It was already halfway through the year. So I stayed ready, got the Nico Price fight, and then after Nico Price, I stayed ready again just in case there was a short notice fight. But then I somehow got that fight with Mike Perry. But that did come from a fight dropping out because it was a Santiago Ponzinibbio and Robbie Lawler fight. That was supposed to be in the place of me and Mike's fight. So they threw us in there.
I was always wondering, like, you got to keep your weight and all that stuff. I'm like, I don't know how mentally taxing that is, or that if you.
It's not. It's not bad. It's like if you love it, it's just another day. Like, you know what I mean? I love doing it, so it's work. You know what I mean?
It's part of being that guy.
Being that guy, exactly.
Yeah, man. I think this is going to be a pretty big year for the division itself because I mean we got Tyron coming back. He's got a huge fight against Leon Edwards. And those are the two names. The loser of that fight, I could see you fighting the loser of that fight, either this next fight or the fight after that. So how close are you going to be watching these fights in at the 170 division, the first few cards?
Real close. I watched it. That's all I watched. You know what I mean? Like before I got in UFC, I never really watched the UFC. You know what I mean? People always give me stuff like, "How are you going to fight?" And you don't watch fights. I'm like, why do I got to watch fights? Like, you know what I mean? I'm focused on me. But now I watch, the only people I watch is like 170ers that are above me, close to me, and my teammates, you know. So, but I'm going to be watching it close. I'm thinking that Tyrone gets hurt because Tyrone's getting old. So he might get hurt and they might throw me in there with Leon. So that would be ideal.
Wow. I want to hear you call him Tyrone in person. He gets mad when people don't call him Tyron. See?
Oh, Tyrone.
Put that in your bit.
Tyron. We're going to call him T. Just avoid all that trouble.
See, he's going to see this clip. He's got a big eye. And that boy Geoff Neal, I'm going after him next.
My man Jeff's like, I wish he might.
Yeah, for real.
That's all I like about it. When you see a fight like Colby and Kamaru, from a technical standpoint, does that give you confidence as leading those guys are? They're not as good as you are on the feet, and we all know this. Yeah. Like they had, I call tough guy boxing with a little bit of technique. Like I can't see nobody doing that with you in 5 rounds and living to tell about it. Even if they want to catch you, you can encounter them and hurt like how they hurt each other. They're not getting out the round. That's just your physics. So, from a fighter standpoint, does that give you an extra motivation, or just like kind of like different plays, each fight is like its own individual little story?
Yeah, to be honest, like that fight, I didn't see nothing that I didn't already know. You know what I mean? Like I already knew I would tear him up. If it was a kickboxing match, I'm lighting him up. You know what I mean? I already know that, but they just showed me nothing I didn't know. I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Because I didn't want to see the wrestling for 5 rounds. You know what I mean? Fans enjoyed that too. But at the end of the fight, I'm like, man, I wish somebody would have took somebody down because I do want to see who's a better wrestler. But it's no extra confidence. You know what I mean? I know that they're not going to want to stand up with me. You know what I mean? They might stand up for like a minute, 30 seconds, and they're going to try to get the fight to the cage and get me to the ground.
Yeah. No, 100%, man. 100%. And I think people are starting to finally realize how good you are, man, because after that Mike Perry fight, I saw a whole lot more tweets, a whole lot more articles and stuff like that mentioning your name. And I can't help but think it's like you're starting to get that respect, but it's like, how do you make sure to avoid, while still climbing that ladder, avoid getting in that same situation that Leon Edwards finds himself in? I think the difference is obviously you're finishing more people, but how do you make sure? Is it just doing that, or is it doing more outside of the ring as well? What do you think? The octagon.
I think there does have to be a balance. You know what I mean? Because if you think about Leon, I don't know why people don't like Leon. Like he got in that little altercation with Jorge Masvidal, and people still don't fuck him. Like they still don't want to see him fight. Like you bring up him fighting Jorge, they're like, no, I don't want to see that. So it's just it's up. Like I feel like if I keep on finishing, you know what I mean? Like I'll get what I want. You know, I'm gonna keep on grinding, keep on finishing people. People like to see finishers. Like I fought 2 of the dudes in the welterweight division that are like the go-to fighters. You know what I mean? People love seeing Nico fight. They love seeing Mike fight. I finished them both. You know what I mean? If that on my resume doesn't make somebody want to watch me fight, then I don't know what else the hell will. You know?
Right.
We're gonna still get that mic moment. That mic moment when you pick up that mic. UFC fans.
one day, like every fight, like I have something in my head like that I'm gonna say on the mic, and then I get the mic and I'm like, just to forget everything I was supposed to be saying.
Yeah.
I need to.
Yeah.
Every time, like I have like something planned out in my head, like I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna say that, I'm gonna thank this person. It never happens.
How do you click the switch on and off on? Of course, you were charged up for dropping Mike, and you're conked and you celebrated with Safe Now. But by the time the interview came, you came down because that's when a lot of cats be amped up. Like Corey Anderson, one of the coolest cats with yourself on that. You saw how amped up he was after that last fight, and he quote unquote was out of character. So how do you get to like have that cooling period instantly like that? Because I bet you in real time for commercials and stuff, it's probably about 2 to 3 minutes before they do the ceremony. Raise your hand. Yeah. So how you cool down and not act a fool like the rest of these fighters?
I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with me being a server for so long. You know what I mean? I could put my personality in the instant. You know what I mean? I got to get control over my emotions. You know, for the most part.
And boxing, but like everybody else have a moment they slip up. You've been like you talking to us now. It's like, didn't he just knock this rule's head off like 2 minutes ago? And you just run around the corner like
Dude. Man, I can relate to the waiting thing so much. Have you seen the movie Waiting? Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Like anybody that's ever served or waited tables, like that movie right there, that's a T. Because you got to be like, one table will piss you off, and then you got to walk over 2 tables and be like, everything all right? With a big smile on your face.
Big smile on your face, like nothing just happened.
Yes, man. I don't miss waiting tables whatsoever, and that's a huge point that I actually meant to bring up in our little video we did, was you prepping for that fight, the first fight camp, without having to do that. And obviously the results speak for themselves, but looking back on it, how much more relaxing was it? Because we were talking with Tracy Trudeau a couple episodes ago, and she's a mental health advocate, and she talks about, the stresses and things like that goes around with fighters and everything like that. And normally we're talking about fighters having so much stress, and it's just building up, and you eliminated one major area of stress in terms of, utilizing your time, maybe getting more sleep and things like that. So looking back on it, how much of a relief was that going into that fight?
It was a big relief, you know what I mean? Just because like serving is stressful as it is, you know what I mean? Like that's 2 mentally stressful things. I'm getting ready for a huge fight. Fighting on national television with the risk of me just getting embarrassed. I'm dealing with people that don't give a damn about me. It's to to cut that out and just focus on the fight and like you said, get more sleep on the weekends. Let my body heal up. It was a hard decision because I didn't want to quit, but it was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Like even now I'm thinking about getting another job. Because I don't know what to do with the weekends. Like.
Yeah.
Instead of going out and like partying, I need to supplement that with something else. You know what I mean?
No, I feel you. I feel you on that. Maybe a little personal training or something.
Yeah, I was thinking that, but like for some reason, serving. I like serving.
Yeah.
As much as I hate it, I like it.
No.
So it was just.
Yeah, you and server got a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, really.
No, I feel that.
I was just thinking.
Yeah.
What's up?
No, I was saying I feel that because I had the same thing. Like when I used to wait tables, man, it was like I dreaded going in, like pulling in the parking lot. But once I got there and in the restaurant, it was like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah.
For the next 5 or 6 hours or whatever it was. So, It's just one of those things. I think everybody, especially people that love to go out to eat themselves, need to do a little bit of waiting tables, at least for a few months, just so you can see what it's like. You gain a lot of life experience.
A lot of life experience, man. Serving, man.
I co-sign that on the low.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, man, it's do you I know you said like you used to not watch UFC, but like have you started watching it more? Like, do you pay attention to who you think would be like a fighter of the year and stuff like that?
Yeah, a little bit, but like I said, I do not watch. Like I know Israel, in my opinion, is fighter of the year. You know what I mean? But yeah, they really haven't paid attention that much.
I got you.
Were you impressed with what Masvidal did in 2000, especially since he's in your division?
Yeah, I was. You know what I mean? I was impressed that he knocked out Darren Till like that. You know what I mean? I was expecting him to beat up on Askren. And I was also expecting him to beat up on Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is the 55er, and I'm still mad that they got him ranked at 170 because he is a 55er. But the only thing that he did that surprised me was him knocking out Darren Till. Mm-hmm. Well, was that 2008?
I think that was earlier this year.
Yeah, 35.
I forget. Yeah. But I mean, speaking of another guy that's not really a 170, you got Conor. Conor at 170 now.
Jeff's like barbecue chicken.
If they rank him after that, like if he wins and they rank him, I'm gonna be so pissed. Like because he doesn't. You got to fight a 170er to be ranked at 170. Bottom line. And then after that, you need to fight another 170er, otherwise get out the rankings.
Yeah.
Like they still got Pettis ranked. Pettis is fighting 155. You know what I mean? He hasn't fought a 170er since he beat Wonder Boy.
Right.
But I mean, if Conor wants to be in the 170 weight class, what's up?
Yeah.
I'll talk shit that fight.
Yes. Yeah, man. That would be awesome right there. Should bring that down to Texas somewhere. Let that fight happen in Dallas or something. That'd be dope. That would be dope. Speaking of Texas, we got that Houston card coming up. I think who's on there? Miles is on that card, right?
Ryan Spann was on that card.
Yeah, he got moved off.
Well,
but Miles Johns is fighting.
Yeah. So you'll be making the trip down there for support?
Yeah, 100%. It's in Houston. Even if they weren't fighting, I'm still going to go. It's like right down the road, 3-hour drive.
Yeah.
We know you don't get into sentimental stuff. They're gonna have the camera up on you and stuff. Geoff Neal's in the house. Are you looking forward to that moment, getting recognized like now? But that is kind of part of your journey.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's been cool. Like like having people notice me. Just like outside is walking down the street, walking in the mall or something. Somebody's like, "Hey, you Geoff Neal?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like it makes me happy,
Yeah, that's tight.
But
you worked your ass off for that.
It's not that bad yet, but I've heard from people like it gets worse.
Yeah.
You can fool them with your Clark Kent look like you got on now.
Exactly. That's the reason I started wearing glasses. I'm still trying to grow this beard out. This side's not doing what it's supposed to do, so I might just shave it off.
Yeah. Now, do you actually need glasses, or do you like wear contacts, or what?
No, I don't need them. I just wear them all the time now.
Oh, okay.
It's like natural now.
All right. Nothing wrong.
I'm faking.
So now that you break through, if you only fight, say for instance, you only fight twice, but they're both in the top 10. Would that be a good year and you get your hand raised? Would that be a good 2020 for you?
If I only fight twice next year, I need my pay to go up. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like ideally 3. Like if I was getting paid a little bit more, fighting twice would be cool. But I'm not, so I'm shooting for 3.
How many fights you got in your carrying there left?
2 more. But if I knock this next person out, I'm like I can renegotiate for a new one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that'd be dope. That'd be dope. I mean, you're getting to that point, man. Like I said, you getting those finishes, you're turning heads. That usually equals more money in you know, in the contract when it comes time to renegotiate. So, you know, just keep everything going as it is. And of course, you know, I know Coach Safe does a good job with you guys as well, making sure y'all get what y'all are supposed to get. So I'm looking forward for a big 2020, not only from you and the gym itself as a whole, and big fights right out the gate, like you said, Ryan Spann, Miles Johns, Macy's got a fight coming up as well.
It's the week after.
Yeah, Baya's got a fight.
Yeah.
So Fortis is real active in the first few months, man.
Geoff, just remember the podcast that was with you before everybody knew that you could be busting some ass. Remember that podcast that rock with you?
Yes.
100%.
We're doing interviews after every fight.
100%. And before we let you go, man, like, what's your holidays been like, man? How did you enjoy your Christmas? And of course, New Year is coming up in a couple of days. So, how have the holidays been treating you?
Been treating me good. Like I'm so glad that I finally got to eat some food. You know what I mean? For the past like 3 years, New Year's and Christmas was a pain in the ass because I always had a fight right after. I couldn't eat food. You know what I mean? I'm at Christmas like not miserable. It's great to see family and everything, but it's miserable watching them eat and me not being able to eat. And then New Year's come around, I'm looking at everybody's stories. They're popping bottles of champagne. Happy New Year! And I'm just sitting around like, man, let me drink this water.
This water.
Yeah.
Hey, what about your boy RG3 today?
What's up?
Your boy RG3.
Yeah.
Did you watch?
What about RG3?
He got to play today.
Oh, he got to play today.
Yeah.
He started, right?
Yeah.
Watch it. I've been chilling at home all day. I should have watched it.
I didn't watch you in football because they held out Lamar Jackson because they wouldn't get hurt, so RG3 got to start the final games. I was like, oh, Geoff, I literally thought about that. Like, Geoff got up there and fell up in there.
Yeah. Did he do good, or did you watch it?
Yeah,
they won? That's what's up.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, RG3 will be playing the Super Bowl. You go down to Miami, support your boy.
Right now, yeah, that's expensive, but
I'll be like, I'll be watching.
Just like the Cowboys, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I need to take this hat off. I'm embarrassed.
They'll come back, man.
Do you go to other sporting events? Like, have you been to like a Cowboy or have time to go to like a Maverick game? Since there's so many, there's way more Maverick games than Cowboys.
I've been to two Cowboy games. I think 2, yeah. 2, but that's about it. Like, man, I don't do a lot. Like, you know what I mean, going to sporting events. I haven't even been to a concert yet. You know what I mean? I'm probably gonna start doing that. But yeah, I've only 2 Cowboys games. I've never been to a pro NBA game. No hockey, no baseball. Actually, 2 baseball games, but that's about it.
Yeah, man. Dallas can definitely keep you busy if you want to be. If you want to be busy. Yeah. But hey, man.
I like big crowds get on my nerves sometimes.
No, 100%. 100%. I agree with you on that, man. Well, Geoff, man, we appreciate the time coming on to help us wrap up 2019. Fantastic year to you, man. We look forward to see what you do to top it in 2020.
You broke through in our book. You already that breakthrough. Now we see you get that shot, so you get them checks.
Oh yeah, a couple more fights. I might start getting those 6-figure paydays.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You seem so calm about it too.
Yeah, I mean, still got to work to get it. It ain't here yet.
Got to stay grounded. Got to stay grounded. Yeah, man. Well, yeah, man. I know our fans and our viewers will be tuning in to you as well. And yeah, man, we'll try to keep the the inside camp stuff going as well, as long as you allow it to happen. So we'll keep those things going.
Yeah, go. Yeah, I'm just a phone call away. Hit me up anytime.
Appreciate it, Geoff.
Appreciate the time, brother.
Yeah, appreciate y'all.
Please welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast. Friend of the show and boxing's hottest prospect, He's my prospect of the year. He's also Ring TV, Ring Magazine's prospect of the year, and ESPN 2019 prospect of the year, Mr. Vergil Ortiz Jr. Congrats, man, on the dual honors.
Hey, thank you, man.
When you found out that you prospect of the year for both major publications in boxing, they wasn't like a split. How was? I know you don't fight for those accolades, but how cool was it to get that?
No, it was really cool. You know, to be recognized for something as big as that. That's definitely an honor. I was told that I was the ESPN prospect of the year after my last fight, maybe an hour after, maybe not even. But when I woke up and I saw that I was a Ring TV one, I was like, oh, wow, that took me by surprise even more, you know?
Hey, you got my vote. I'm on the panel.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. It's hard to argue with that. And you're coming off that win over Brad Solomon. And that fight to me, man, it's been a while since I've seen someone just break somebody like you did. Like, you broke him. Like, he was like, I take my gloves off. I'm done. It was brutal. It was brutal, man.
Yeah, man. I knew that he was going to be a tough one to break. Like, if I would have just went out there trying to, force my power on him, everyone says I got power and I have a little bit, but for him I had to use my brains as well. I had to pick my shots. I was jabbing to the body a lot because it stings him, and I was just trying to slow him down.
Yeah, I would say that worked because, like I said, could you feel him breaking? Because watching the fight, it just felt like he was like, all right, I don't think I have any answers for this dude, and it seemed like he slowly started drifting out the fight.
Nah, man, I could literally hear him. He was smacking his lips. He was going every time I would do something, or if he tried to do something, I would just keep my distance. And every decision I was making, he was it was frustrating him.
Oh damn!
Does it feel good? Of course, I knew you when you stepped in the ring, you knew you could get him out of there. But does it feel good to out chess because he's known as being a chess player, and you basically checkmated him, and then you got him up out of there?
Oh yeah, definitely. What people don't realize, I can box too. I just never really needed to. I feel like I have a pretty high IQ, and I mean, as I start fighting, higher competition, you're gonna start seeing that.
I know you kind of lay low on the business side with all the craziness that behind the scenes at Golden Boy. How much do you want to basically get your fair share and get your market when you see somebody that's not a prospect of the year? Hasn't fought for a world title, name hasn't been linked to a world title, making a lot of money without putting their name out there. How frustrating is that, guy? I know you're a prize fighter, so you fight for money, and it's a business.
Well, yeah, it doesn't frustrate me. I know that my time will come. I feel like that I've created enough buzz to satisfy me for the moment. I'm not satisfied with anything, but prospect of the year from multiple organizations and all that. That's definitely a lot for me. I do get paid pretty well, so I'm not complaining at all. If people are getting paid more than me, better, then I'm happy for them. My time's going to come, and I hope we all shine.
Would you consider yourself a DAZN fighter since you were Golden Boy?
I mean, I fight on DAZN. Golden Boy still has the Facebook Live and the Ring TV stuff. So, I mean, I wouldn't call myself a DAZN fighter, but I fight on DAZN. That's where my fights are at. So I'm both, I guess.
What street do you believe in this? People be on certain sides of the street theory.
Man, I do believe that some fights are harder to make because of the promoters, the promotion. Some of the fights that I want, in particular, would be a little harder to make. So in a way, yeah, but at the same time, if it's not that hard to cross the street, if you want to make the fights, then they're gonna make them.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that, man. And looking ahead at 2020, what you had 4 fights this year?
Yeah,
4 fights this calendar year. So we're, like we said, prospect of the year right now. We're looking at climbing up that ladder, getting up there to those big names. How many fights away do you think you are from where you might have to run into that issue of having that cross the street issue type thing going on?
Man, we might run into it this year, no later than next year. With the fights that I want, I've seen Eric Gomez that in an interview he said that we're going to be going down to WBA rankings for my next fight. So, and I've seen some of those fighters are on the other side of the street, Yeah. So, we could possibly run into that situation this year, maybe even this next fight. You know?
Okay. Do you think I know you don't like to talk. You just want to stay, bust your ass in the gym, show up on fight night, get the win. Do you think you may have to? I won't say be out of character, but be a lot more vocal and do some antics and stuff that we hadn't seen you to get what you want to get your career to draw somebody out or something like that.
You know, like I said before, I don't think I need to right now, but you know, there will be a time where I might have to vocalize my opinions. You know, there's always something said about when the quietest guy says something. That's when, like, oh shit, like, damn.
Yeah.
Are we gonna see that Dallas side come out one of these days on the mic?
That Oak Cliff.
I don't know if America ready for that. It's like people don't, because they hear like Oak Cliff, South Dallas, and because like you know Earl from DeSoto, but they don't know there's levels to this. Everybody want to talk about Southside Chicago, Inglewood, and South Central. All right, let somebody from South Dallas come at you, see what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, that's hilarious. Yeah, it's kind of crazy because you know, obviously, as we're talking about those names, man, Errol and that whole car crash thing, and he did that interview. I don't know if you saw that interview, but he's like, it seems like he's still not right. You know, it seemed like he still got some issue going on with, I guess, his jaw or something, where he wasn't talking the same, like his voice didn't sound the same, or his words didn't come out the same. Like, I hope he doesn't rush back. You know what I mean? I hope he doesn't rush back into action.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he definitely needs to take his time. You know, I mean, that is a big incident that happened to him. So there's really no need for him to rush into it. I mean, he has a really good excuse. You know, like, damn, got in a car wreck. He got ejected out of his car. You know, he does need some time to recuperate out of that.
Yeah, and we have the video. It's not like it's like nobody can fake that story.
We got proof.
No, like we saw it. It's all good. Like take your time, bro.
Yeah.
You know. But I think even if he did sit on the shelf for like, I don't know, majority of the year, that still leaves a lot of intriguing fights. Like he doesn't have to rush back. I mean, you climbing up the ladder. You got a whole bunch of other big names in the division. I think it would still leave a lot of intriguing fights on the table for this year. And then, you know, when he is healthy, come back. And then, you know, hey, you could hold down the whole DFW area in the meantime. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, definitely. I didn't even think about it like that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was ultimately leading to right there.
And I'm gonna give you the platform because I know who you want. Why do you want Keith Thurman so bad? It's like he's that guy you got circled on your calendar. Like I know Earl basically has Pacquiao circled on his calendar. Why do you have Keith Thurman circled on your calendar?
Well, you know, there's just our fight styles. You know, we're pretty explosive fighters. Him, especially in the first few rounds, he likes to really explode in those first few rounds. He's the most explosive in the beginning of the fight. I tend to be, a little more, how do you say, like, not shy, but like I hold my punches sometimes. I'm very selective with my punches. Like you said, in the beginning, I like to see what works. If he's gonna open up and be more active, he's gonna open up more. So I'm gonna be able to see what his habits are, what he's gonna do. You know what? It's just I believe that some of my punches are made for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you get there, you basically gonna be the first guy to finish him. It's not even about winning. You're gonna be the first guy to finish him and make that statement. That's a two-time unified champion.
Yeah, that would always be a nice thing to do. Ultimately, I do think that I have what it takes to beat him, even if it's not just finishing him. Although that would be great. If Manny Pacquiao didn't finish him, that'd be really good on my part. But ultimately, I just want to win and shine.
Yeah. Does fighting somebody like Pacquiao intrigue you, or you think people would hate on you? Well, look how old he is. Look how young you are. Because I think it's funny. A lot of people who say that about Canelo when he fought Floyd, about Floyd fighting such a young kid, and Floyd should have fought him, but Floyd was 36 years old.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think people, there's always going to be people that are going to say that, Vergil been fighting. Hold on, my friend's FaceTiming me. I don't know why you're doing that. Leave me alone.
You popular.
There's always going to be people saying stuff like that. It doesn't bother me so much anymore. I think there's always going to be a little bit that's going to bother me, but not enough to where I'm gonna reply with some hate and freaking let my filter off, But I always got a filter on me. I never say completely what's on my mind. But that fight does intrigue me. He's one of the greatest of all time. He's a legend. I think if you beat Manny Pacquiao at any time of his career, that's a solid win. Maybe not next year or in 2 years, because I think he probably only has 1 or 2 more fights in him. But I think that he's a very credible opponent.
Yeah. And I mean, he's still in talks of, fighter of the year in this year. He's on people's lists, and obviously, I think he still got a lot of juice left in the tank. Depending on who he fights, in these last couple of fights, that's going to really, tell the next story. But speaking of that, who is your fighter of the year besides yourself?
Besides myself, and besides Canelo, because he did win it, and in my opinion, it would be him. But besides him too, I have no idea. Let me see who did good. Let me see.
What about the Earl? You got Mikey Garcia and Sean Porter on that resume.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Inouye was a monster.
Yeah,
in the World Series. And, it would have to be either Inouye or I'm gonna have to go with Inouye. Inouye.
Speaking of Inouye, people are saying him and the Donaire fight was fight of the year. When you see that from a fan perspective, it's cool, but from a fighter's perspective, do you try to I don't want to be in any fight like that in my career? Or do you maybe one? I want to be one just once, because it's your body on the line, and you're gonna be the one sore for a couple weeks, and nobody see all that stuff.
They don't see that. I'm not saying that I want to be in one of those fights, but when the time comes, I would love to show how tough that I am. That I can definitely dig deep and pull through when I need to.
Yeah,
but I'm not asking for it.
Nah, don't ask for it, man. It trips me out when people he came out of this war. He's got it. He's got that thing. You need to have. It's nice to know that you have it. You have it in the gym. You're gonna know you have that. But to put it on display, in the heat of the moment, when it really counts, it's overrated to put that on the line, because it's like we're saying, man. As soon as the fight's over, everybody pretty much all they're talking about is, did you win or did you lose? Nobody cares about, man, those cuts. He's gonna be on the sidelines for how many months? His broken hands, his orbitals crack, all that kind of. They don't think about none of that.
they really don't. Nah, but I mean that's just how it is, So you just got to deal with it. It's cool.
This trip you out that people in the boxing media, some of these high profile people think that you need to go through some adversity or go into a war, have something crazy happen to you before you to be considered a really good fighter. I need something bad to happen for you to know that I really was that good. It makes no sense on any logic, but they go by that logic, and some of these people have these big names. It's are you that dumb?
Yeah, I don't know. Some people, they really they find any way to try to discredit you and your wins, he didn't fight anyone. Well, maybe he was just that good,
right.
He was just blowing them out. Some people can say that about Mayweather, but the truth is he's one of the best defensive fighters of all time, and he knew how to play his own game, and people just fell right into his game. So it's maybe it's not even that he was cherry picking. Maybe no one just couldn't do anything to him.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. Let me throw you a kind of a random question.
All right.
Because you always hear, it's still boxing related, but you always hear that people say people don't know shit about boxing.
Mm.
What is it that people don't know shit about in boxing?
Some people they think that they can do it too with no training. I would have done this, and dude, that's let's say if I go into your job and I say, man, I can do that all day. I know I can do that. No, there's there's small details. It's not just doing this or doing that. Basketball, you don't just shoot a ball and it goes in. You gotta, some people are defending you. There's different strategies and all that I don't know about. So that's why when people talk about sports, I'm like, man, I don't know anything about that. I'm not gonna pretend that I do. I like some players. For majority, I like players if they do good or not. I'm not gonna lie, but that's just how I am because I don't know anything about the sport. You know, if it looks clean, I'm like, oh, that was good. Like you're my favorite player now. You know, but I don't know anything about anything like that. So I try to think of it like that. Like if I was watching another sport that I didn't do, you know, I'm not really getting the full. I'm not soaking it all in because I don't know enough about it.
Okay.
What do you do about the increased visibility now that your name getting out there? People stop you at the malls and at the Chick-fil-A's and Grand Prairie and Dallas. Is that cool and stuff, or you just like, man, I just want to eat my food, or man, I just want to take my mom out to eat? Like, how's that changing with people starting to know that you that guy? And the fact that you're not a brother, so you don't look like Earl Spence either. So they like, oh, the Mexican boxer dude from Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to see it. To see people, you know, coming up to me and all that stuff. I mean, it's cool, especially since it's not around the fight. So people like it doesn't come in a like huge amounts of people. After the fight, man, it was crazy. Like I was trying to eat my pizza, bro. I'd take one bite. Yeah, come take a picture. You know, those some people just looking at me. I'm like, I can't eat my pizza. People are looking at me, so I gotta take a picture. But you know, once someone sees me take a picture, then a whole crowd comes in. So I try to be like, all right. 10 people isn't as bad as that. Like, so I'm like, all right, I'm good. So, those are my fans, you know.
Yeah, when you like the fight here in Dallas, did that kind of get you in that mindset? Because you starting to get bigger, where you like, you know how the guys, the big guys, have like the security for the week, have people watching their girl and their mom and dad. Are you starting to getting towards that level? Because you like right at that cusp where people, because I actually see we've been talking that you had some random people come up, you know, when we were talking at the theater and stuff that day. So are you like looking at stuff like, man, I'm that big, or it's kind of like it's part of your dream coming true?
Oh yeah, I definitely feel myself getting a little bigger. I feel like as long as things keep going the way they're going, I feel like I'm gonna shoot up pretty fast. I don't think it's gonna get too much getting used to. I might be surprised, like, oh, you know. Sometimes when I first went to the MGM, I was like, oh my god, I got my own room and all this. So that was cool to me. Now I'm used to it. So you know, I just I feel like I'm still myself the way I was in high school. I don't think anything's gonna change. You know.
Yeah. No chicas. Mucho chicas. Or my man Teofimo Lopez, I was out there when he beat Richard Kirby, but later in the fight, because you know he had a crazy ass year. I was out the ring, and he goes, "Y'all people think my life is a fucking novella."
I'm dead.
No novellas in Grand Prairie.
Nah, none of that.
Right. Yeah, man. Speaking of family, man, obviously it's holiday times. Like, do you guys have a big family tradition you do around the holiday times, or what?
Man, we just make tamales and that's it, pretty much. We don't open presents at the same time other people do. You know, some people open them at midnight. Some people open them the next morning. We open them at like 9:00 p.m. We don't wait. We're too excited.
That's the way to do it.
Yep.
Man. Yeah, that's cool, man. Because obviously that's the time of the year, man. Everybody gets super excited about like, hey, because you know. My family, like this year, we did it at like 3:00 in the afternoon. Like that's the latest I've ever opened presents. I was kind of disappointed.
Damn.
Yeah.
Vergil, like your family
on Christmas Day. Yeah. Man, hell, I couldn't do that. Someone adopt me.
I'm usually the midnight guy. Like, hey, it's Christmas, let's go. Like, you know. But this year, like, we had, you know, my fiance's family was in town, and everybody was just sleeping. I was like, nobody's getting up for real. I was just like, I'm gonna let them do it.
Yeah.
So y'all got no kids. You don't got that knock on the door.
That's crazy.
You don't got that knock on the door.
I couldn't do that.
Hey, Santa came. Can we go downstairs?
Right.
So what did you get your parents for Christmas?
What I get my parents? Well, my mom, I'm paying her car off.
Hey.
I got her a car. It was, what is it? It's a Dodge. What are those? They're not Challengers, but they're like the SUV kind of Challenger, kind of looking. I don't know what it's called.
He paid for you. Know what it's called? I want that problem right there.
I forgot what it was called, but I got her one of those for her birthday in October, and so her Christmas present, I'm just gonna pay it all out. She don't got to pay for it no more, you know. So, yeah, that was for her. My dad, me and my dad share the same bank account, so basically, he said, "Dude, just don't give me nothing, because it's like me still buying it for myself." So,
Yeah.
Actually, I got him some shoes
Okay.
today.
Okay.
Some shoes, some Jordan gray, like dark gray ones.
Okay.
They're 12s. They're 12s.
Oh, I like the 12.
Got them today, so that'll be like a late Christmas present.
Nice.
Give some insight to your dad, like super cool. We can tell y'all close. How big a deal is it for him to be in your corner? From how far you go, you get belts. You at the end of your career, like Pacquiao, in 20 years from now, is it a big deal that he's in your corner, or does he have to be involved? Because sometimes the dad gets phased out, but he's still around, like Chavez Sr. or something like that. Or do you want him in the corner? It's a big deal that he's there for every fight, or as long as he's part of the process and he's in the arena or like within earshot, you're cool with that as you get bigger and older.
Oh no, he has to be in my corner. He's the one that knows me the best. He's trained me since I was 5 years old, so he knows what I can and can't do. He knows how I react when certain situations come up. He can straighten me out if he needs to in the ring, like, hey, snap out of that, something.
Like for maybe the senior.
Yeah. So, he knows me the best, so I definitely need him in my corner.
That's tight. Yeah, I love y'all bond because it's like legit, and it's like y'all know it's not even weird because sometimes it's weird. Like even with the Mayweathers, you don't know if they mean like personal or if it's business. Y'all can be on and off very smoothly. So props to y'all, especially since you so early in your career, because we know what level Floyd and them on, and they really never got it figured out until like fight 48.
Yeah. Damn. Took a while.
Right? It's well documented. And Coach, you're a junior. Do you want them to emphasize that? Because they don't really say, because of course like your dad's in the sport, but it's not like Floyd's dad was like a actual like former fight for belts and stuff. But do you care to emphasize the Vergil Ortiz Junior, or just you don't care?
Oh yeah, for sure. They need to know that my dad's a part of this too. My dad doesn't like the attention at all. If you notice, he doesn't really like to get interviewed. There's not a whole lot of interviews.
I holler in the corner all the time.
Yeah. So he doesn't like the attention. He just he wants to be making sure that I'm good in camp. He does a lot of mitts with me and stuff, and he's in my corner and sparring. So really, that's how he wants to do. He doesn't he doesn't want to be in the spotlight, basically.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that. So last question from me, man, before we let you go. Can you give us a time frame when we expect you back in there?
Spring.
Okay. I'm with it.
And my question is, do you think you'll be fighting for a belt in 2020, or do we have to wait till 2021 to see you challenge for that first strap?
Man, I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea what's gonna go on.
Do you have do you like fly to California, kind of go to the office and sit in that big ass thing, that big ass office they got that's sold off of like around Figueroa and Wilshire and stuff in California, downtown LA? Do y'all like have meetings up in that bad boy and it's like, this is what we're gonna do? Or are you sitting there with Eric Gomez, or they just holler at your dad and they're like, hey, what you think about this? Like, how's all that stuff go?
Yeah, sometimes they just holler at my dad. But if it's like a huge thing, it has to be really big for us to go over there, because that's like a 2-hour drive.
Y'all don't fly out to California?
Huh?
They'll fly out to LA? Like to go to offices?
Okay, see, if we're in Texas, they're just gonna call us. I don't like flying and having to fly back. I get tired. But if we're in California, even still, if it's just a suggestion, they're just gonna call us. But if it's something big, like when I re-signed or something like that, or maybe even if it is like, all right, we're gonna fight for a world title, we might need to negotiate something, or something like that. Obviously, I haven't got to that point yet, but maybe if it comes to that point, we might have to go over there.
Very cool. Very cool.
Hey, let us know.
100%.
Yep.
Pops, greatly, but always like you coming on, brother. But pops to you for
sure.
being our first ever Slippin' Dippy prospect of the year on the boxing
yeah.
side.
Yeah, we got to get you a trophy made.
I ain't say all that.
I need my picture back there.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll hit you up. We'll hit you up in a couple seconds, though. That'd be kind of
all right, cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for coming on, brother, and we look forward to talking to you in 2020.
All right, man. Hey, y'all take care.
Peace. Please welcome back to the Slip and Dip podcast. Good friend of the show, formerly of SureDog.com, MMA On Point. He's got his own YouTube channel, the Walkout Network. My man Anthony Walker, what's happening?
Hey man, how y'all feeling today, man? Good to see y'all as always.
Yes, 100%. Congratulations on the newborn. I know you're over there getting in your fatherly bag. So thanks for taking out some time with us, man.
Oh, it's all good, man. This little one wearing me out right now, so it's good to take a little break, not dealing with poop or vomit or pee right now, and I'm just talking fights. So yeah, went from one bodily fluid to blood. So there we go. We'll run with that.
We'll hit you from the top of the list. Who's your 2019 Fighter of the Year?
Israel Adesanya. It wasn't a very difficult call for me to make either because, when thinking about this, there were a few other people that I would consider on that list.
Who?
Of course, Jorge Masvidal comes to mind. I would say Kamaru Usman is someone that we should be talking about. Yes. I'd put Amanda Nunes on that list as well. Demetrius Johnson, I'd put on that list. Yes. Patricio Pitbull, I'd put on that list. Yeah. But at the end of the day, man, I think that Israel Adesanya had the strength of schedule more than anyone else. He also earned 2 belts, although one was interim. He earned 2 belts. He earned the first belt in what I say is the fight of the year against Kelvin Gastelum. He obliterated Robert Whittaker, who we were talking about pound for pound greatness before that fight. And then on top of that, the star power, part of Masvidal's appeal was the star power, and he was able to attract mainstream attention. Adesanya attracted his own bit of mainstream attention, and he did it fighting the best guys in the world, and there was no celebrities there to put belts around his waist. It was just the good old-fashioned I'm the best strap, and that's all.
Yeah.
Hey, you do something what people rarely do, man. You flipped me, because I was kind of going back and forth for him and Masvidal, but he's fighting for real belts. And that he gets a nod on me. And man knows I don't really give 2 F's about Bellator, but Pitbull is my guy. If I would watch a fighter in Bellator, that dude's the man.
Yeah, Pitbull, man, we have to talk about his level because in this era where it's always about champs and double belts and all that. I mean, Pitbull did earn his second belt by knocking out the best lightweight in Bellator, and the guy who has been, with the exception of Eddie Alvarez, maybe the best lightweight in Bellator's history. He knocked him out in the first round, so that says a lot. And Pitbull then destroyed Juan Archuleta, who is one of the more underrated guys in the featherweight division as a whole, and that's just not Bellator's roster. That's worldwide. Featherweights. Juan Archuleta is one of the best out there, and Pitbull made him look like an amateur. So he deserves consideration, but it's just that Adesanya did so much, and we're not even factoring in that he earned the first championship belt for African-born fighters in the UFC. Yeah. And that's a huge deal. Someone who is opening up a region for new fighters and new markets.
But do you think they market that enough though? Because to me, they like on paper he is, but is he really? Because I don't think they market enough to open up that region. Like they'll take some freak like a Francis or up and coming person that kind of remind you of him, or like the who's the guy Francis gonna fight?
Rosenstruck.
Yeah, something like that kind of stands out, but I don't see them doing like they should do and doing their due diligence and making that emphasis. It's just like, if they got this guy, they can identify him because they're intact with the market, you know what I'm saying? But they're not trying to develop the market.
Yeah, see, that's I'm glad you said that, because I do think that's an area that the UFC is sorely lacking, and they pay it lip service in the press conferences. They'll pay it lip service on the commercials and whatnot. And you see Usman painting a Nigerian flag on his face, and so there's effort, but it's more so on fighters like Usman, on fighters like Adesanya, on fighters like Ngannou, who are making it very clear that they are African. And they want that to stand out. I mean, the UFC did have a strange little thing that they kind of stumbled across. And, as usual, they don't really pick up the marketing ball that just dropped right in their lap. But at the press conference for 234, which I think was going on, was not 234. What event was it that he beat Whittaker at?
I forget the numbers. They all run together to me.
Yeah, so it was. I just know it took place during 241 fight week, and they had that press conference in Australia, and he got into it with about his heritage, and he's saying he said, "Do I look like I'm really from New Zealand?
Right.
Like I live here, but do I really look like I look? And I've got Africa tattooed on me for a reason, and I look like this for a reason, and to have this dual identity, and he has been very, very clear about that dual identity.
100%.
Yeah, I know it's my time to ask a question, but because you're really a good person because that's a problem we have in the boxing side of media. People speaking about what you're doing, but doing it correctly. We have people that want to do it, but they don't do it correctly. That's a whole other story. But this one thing I want you to speak on. Do you think people in the media, like you said, it's on the fighters, I don't think they care to, it's like, oh, that's interesting, but they don't care to follow up because they're not interested or they're uncomfortable. And that's the one thing that's holding MMA back, as popular as it is.
Probably. And the thing is, a lot of people are just uncomfortable exploring the unknown. I don't necessarily think of course, racism is there. Of course, I'll be the first one to jump on a mountain and scream that racism or prejudice is going on. I don't think that's always the case. I don't think it's always that cut and dry. I think a lot of times people are just
different. It's not a smoking mirrors. It's kind of convoluted.
And I think the UFC is particularly guilty of this, where it's not, if it doesn't fit this exact mold that they're used to, they have no idea what to do, and they don't even bother trying.
Facts.
And I think we could look at Tyron Woodley's championship reign as an example of this, where you have this guy who is the window to a whole other market that you really underserve. And the promotion doesn't really play to it all. You got this guy who is the perfect fit for that market to open those doors, and you don't know what to do with it. So you don't try. And it's not necessarily like, okay, something against this culture or this person or this race or anything like that. It's just like, we don't know what to do, so why bother trying?
And then you got Mighty Mouse on the other side. He's completely different personality and story than Tyron, and they couldn't even market that. And you didn't have the inner city from Washington, Missouri, and a little bit of...
You had a guy who's a hardcore gamer. You have a whole market of people that are in the video games and stuff like that you didn't market to. You had the Diaz brothers smoking weed since the day before forever, but there's a whole stoner crowd out there that you didn't try to market to. So there are so many little nuggets and little niche groups that the UFC just doesn't even try to reach out to. And that's probably a problem in combat sports in general. I would say boxing is better about it, because at least boxing recognizes that the divisiveness sells. And they've played to that for, 100 plus years. It's always been tribe versus tribe, or race versus race, or state versus state, or country versus country. It's always been some sort of identity versus another sort of identity.
Right.
He was watching the fight last night. He was watching the Tank Davis fight.
100%.
I didn't see the Tank Davis fight. I was watching Bellator Japan.
But as I said, because it was in Atlanta, a.k.a. Black Hollywood, and you saw all kinds of people, from Shaq to people that I don't see it fights in Vegas and stuff. They showed up last night, though. It was weird.
Yeah, I mean, you got to play to those strengths. Like you have it there. I think I think that was a ball that the UFC dropped hugely by not putting the Woodley versus Covington fight together. Yes. But just by chance, they happened to have Usman, who took over the place for Woodley, and then you had that to an extent, or it's the same sort of ballpark as far as the differences between champion and challenger.
Yeah, I think the reason why they didn't want to go with Usman or not Usman, but Woodley and Covington was because he was too on the nose politically. Because Tyron literally has websites dedicated to anti-Trumpness.
Yeah.
Colby is literally wearing the red hat. It was too on the nose. At least Usman was more like, he didn't address the political side as much. He was just like, I just don't like this dude. I'm gonna go out there and whoop his ass. Like, it was just like that genuine dislike for the person, not necessarily the political side was at the forefront. But I think that's why they kind of pumping the brakes on the Woodley one, because they didn't want that to be as ugly as it could have been. Because I think that could have been like the ugliest build up in UFC history. Horribly ugly,
but at the same time, this is first of all, Dana White is speaking at the Republican National Convention in service of Trump. So
and I have a story about that, boy. I have a story about that.
So now you can't say, oh, now that's too hot for us to touch, because you've been touched it.
Right.
And then on top of that, like for the marketing for UFC 229, like, I mean, they used the video of a felony to promote the show.
Right.
And they played into every ugly thing of the buildup. And there was some real, some things that didn't get publicized that happened between those camps, like real violence.
Yes.
The street stuff was going on with them dudes that nobody really knows about. Like, there were real consequences to that. So they didn't shy away from it before. They went up there and took that money with a smile. So I as far as the UFC just stepping away from it for moral reasons, nah. No, I'm not.
Tell me this, Ed, because me and Matt had a way different opinion on the whole Kobe thing. Like, he's all upset about the whole manga thing and stuff like that. Why can't you? To me, it's like, have that same intensity for the UFC. They let him do it. If it's a gimmick, it's not real. That's real. They really let him do it. Nobody gets mad at them. They talk about Kobe covered to this. He should have got his ass beat. Yada yada yada. But they allowed him to do it. Nobody said something to them. They're not culpable. It's like they told him to go shoot somebody. They're not culpable. They gave him the money to go do it too, but they're not culpable. That's basically why I take it.
Well, I mean, they are a promoter. They are the bad guy all the time.
Right.
And we can point to the UFC for a wide variety of things that they've done wrong. So that's just kind of par for the course, man. I definitely don't want to point the blame away from the promotion itself, but I mean, for the individual, there are a million different gimmicks that you can run. There are a million different things that you can do to market yourself or promote yourself, whether or not he wasn't. It'd be one thing if he was put himself up on Pornhub or something. The UFC ain't going to promote that, whatever. Like, there's so he could play to a gamer crowd. He could play to a stoner crowd. He could play to any other crowd that he wanted, but he chose that. That's what he chose. And you got to take that L, bro. You just got to take it. You got to hold that. You got to live in it. It is what it is. Like, I didn't shed a tear.
No, 100%. I mean, it's just, I hope at some point, as we're talking about like the whole marketing to certain I guess niche groups. I hope we get to a point to where this year, at some point in 2020 or at the very least 2021 at some point, we do get that UFC Africa card, because there will be no better time to strike when you have two champions, a third who was very vocal about wanting to be on that card in John Jones. I don't know if you guys remember that little behind the scenes deal when Usman and John Jones were talking to each other, talking about how their first experience watching a UFC fight or whatever. And they were talking about wanting to do fight in Africa. Like, you could have a massive card. You could just not have like okay, we're gonna go to Africa here for like a fight night. No, you could have 3 title fights, and they all make sense to the region. At the very least, 3. Or you could even do. Let's say Francis goes out here and knocks out Rosenstruck. You could set up a heavyweight title fight on that card too. So you could get that and new. You could get the and new and the and still out there. It could be a massive card.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, as much as I'd like to see that, I'm not holding my breath. Max Holloway never got his showcase in Hawaii. They missed that train.
Right.
So I'm not holding my breath for it to be fantastic.
The difference there is just one guy. Like, you got multiple people. I mean, one guy at the top. Max Holloway's the only one at the top. You have multiple people at the top, to where it's just like, it makes too much sense to do it. Why are you not doing it right now?
Well, before BJ Penn lost his bar fighting title, they could have dug up his corpse on that card also.
Yes. Big facts. Yeah.
To get us back on track, who's your breakthrough fight of the year? We gave our slip and dippy breakthrough fight of the year to one Geoff Neal. Had nothing to do with his association with the region. Just
yes, it did.
For me,
okay.
So
I know that's your ass. It's all good.
No, that's our dude.
So if you, I guess, would yours be Jorge then, since you didn't give him fight of the year?
Yeah, I gotta go.
I guess you call it breakthrough. It's like he has such a good year. He has to get something. I'm not talking about no damn BMF though.
Yeah, like, and also too, I think it's important that BMF thing even happened. Like that's really a main reason why I want to put him as a breakthrough fighter of the year. So let's and it's kind of strange that a guy who's had a career as long as him, and is finally getting this now, because that dude has been in every promotion you could think of. He fought in shark fights. He fought in Bellator. Like, I remember that at one point in time, the thing that Jorge Masvidal was best known for was getting reverse triangle choked by Toby Amada. And that was like 2010 or something like that. And then he came close to winning the Strikeforce title. Like, he's a guy who's always been just kind of there, but not quite getting over the hump. And it was always just within reach of that greatness. So it's good to see him achieve that in such an epic fashion, because he redefined himself in a couple of different ways. As a fighter, he wasn't a guy who was known for like these explosive finishes. He starts the year by starching Darren Till in London in what was supposed to be a showcase for Darren Till to put him back on track. He spoils that party. Then he pieces up Leon Edwards backstage, makes a viral moment out of that.
Yeah.
Then he has this heated build up with Ben Askren, who he knees into the quickest KO in UFC history. It would have been quicker if the ref wasn't on the other side of the cage.
Exactly. It basically ended his career for all intents and purposes.
Pretty much. Like, yeah, that was kind of the first nail in the coffin for Askren as a pro fighter. And then on top of that, after all of that, he wills into existence the BMF belt that they actually put the word motherfucker on.
Right.
He willed into existence The Rock being there to put the belt on him. And then on top of that, I'm not the biggest fan of the man, but he actually had Donald Trump at his fight, who didn't come to Colby's fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like in all these different ways, Jorge Masvidal just did a complete 180 from what his career was. Now, while I think he's earned himself a shot into like legitimate title contention, with what happened over the 3 big wins over 2019, Israel Adesanya actually got those big wins, actually got the real belt. So yeah, fight of the year, but Jorge earns the breakthrough for me.
Yeah, 100%.
And what's your fight of the year?
Now, I want to go Adesanya versus Gastelum. I will also accept Covington and Usman. That's an acceptable answer. I will also accept Poirier and Holloway. There are a few fights that I will accept, but Gastelum and Adesanya did everything right in so many different moments in that fight. It was those two at their absolute best, and it literally came down to like the last minute. Just fantastic on both their parts, and they were so close to finishing each other at different points, and all the adjustments made. It was a technical masterpiece.
Yeah, I agree with you, because like while you're watching it, you like, if they don't fight again in their careers, it's a travesty. While you're watching it live, exactly. Right. I mean, that's what puts a fight of the year credential up, and I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, man, that was a beautiful fight, man. It was such a good fight, in fact, because if I'm not mistaken, Holloway and Poirier was the next fight. That was the main event of that that card, if I'm correct, right?
I believe so.
And I remember almost being zoned out for the first 2 rounds of that fight, because I was still coming down from Adesanya and Gastelum, and that was true greatness right there.
Yeah. That's my fight of the year. Like, it's not close to me. Like, I get the Usman Covington, good fight, but I mean, it didn't touch Gastelum Adesanya for me. It was, like you said, the ebbs and flows, the back and forth, the stakes, considering the winner that went on to have another epic moment with a dance break routine on the walkout and everything like that.
Was crazy.
Close to home, and basically just putting on a fantastic show through and through, and then closing the show, walking out with the belt, as we all know what happened that night against Robert Whittaker. But for me, that it just ties in for Adesanya, man. To have a fight of the year and then parlay that into what eventually will become the fighter of the year as well. I mean, it's hard to not deny that guy at least 2 of those awards this year.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it was just a great year for UFC overall in terms of quality of fights that they had. Because I mean, I know we were robbed of a couple of fights that we really did want to see, but overall, man, I mean, we had just great moments after great moments. Hell, this last pay-per-view, you know, was pretty damn solid. And it was just like, you think back when people start talking about like cards of the year, like I can never off the top of my head remember overall card of the year. Like I have to go back and look, you know, because it just seems like month after month and be like, man, damn, that was the card of the year right there. And then you'll forget about what happened in January until you go back.
Like, oh, that was fun. Like, oh, that was good too. Like, man, because I was thinking of the cards that I've been to this year. They've all been bangers. Like they all have been. I was at 235, which was Jones versus Santos. I was at, or that was Jones versus Smith, and then I was at Jones versus Santos. Mm-hmm. Then I was at DC Stipe too.
Yes,
as well. I was at a Bellator card. I was at 2 Bellator cards that ended up being good. Like it was just a lot of good action this year, a whole lot of good action, and especially on the UFC side, it wasn't much to complain about just from purely what happened in the cage. It was a lot of fun stuff.
And not just UFC side as well, because Bellator had some banger cards this year too. I forget which number card it was, but literally the entire card was all finishes. I forget which number Bellator card that was, but I watched that card from the beginning to the end. And I was just thoroughly entertained. And it didn't seem like pacing was an issue. You know, that always happens on UFC, at least when it's on ESPN.
ESPN. It's got that FS1 pacing. Yeah, but Bellator and Paramount Network, they got a pacing issue also. They need to knock that off.
They do.
Really.
I did want to.
He said he knocked that off. He's still highly disappointed, bro.
They do.
Yeah, and I get sucked into an 8-hour marathon every time like a dummy.
Dude, I had to bring up Bellator because I know you watched. You watched the card last night, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we got to talk about. I can't take credit for this name, but I saw it come across the Twitter. Hampage Schnackson and his glorified dive last night. I mean, it's unfortunate, man, because the fact that he just basically put it out there on Instagram after the fact was like, hey, he was like, when that check clears, when that check clears, and the ladies was waiting or whatever he said, and I was like, come on, bro.
Yeah, I saw that. Was like, really? Like we just not even trying to pretend. Like, I mean, but he didn't even pretend like he cared about the fight while the fight was going on. It was really shameful. Like, I'm not a guy who ever wants to stand here and disrespect a fighter or question their effort, but I had some serious Chavez Jr. Flashback. It was crazy. Like, DAZN got fleeced twice in 2 weeks.
It's quitting season.
Yeah, man. Somebody getting finessed up there, man. Because, like, shit, I'm gonna take a fight and get the bag, and dive on the floor as fast as I possibly can the moment a guy throws a punch at me. Like, it was such a travesty, man, to see a guy who was one of the great fighters, and for me, somebody who was a big part of my fandom.
Yes, and I'll equally say, first fight I ever watched, didn't know what UFC stood for. I'm up at the sports bar. I'm going to pick the brother because he looked crazy watching him and Chuck Liddell. Barely knew Chuck Liddell. Didn't know nothing about Rampage. Didn't know about his pedigree. I was like, he looked crazy. He going to beat him. I literally picked him and won $100 just because the way he looked. I ain't know nothing about his boxing and going over to Pride and fighting Shogun. I didn't know none of that stuff. That was the first fight I watched in UFC. True story. I didn't know nothing. I didn't know what jiu-jitsu. I couldn't even spell jiu-jitsu at the time.
Yeah, I think for a lot of brothers who watch MMA, like, to see Rampage like that is like, man, because there wasn't a lot of us in the sport when Rampage was at his best and when he was thriving. So to see a guy like that who's really a legend, he's one of the best guys to ever do it, and to see him just go out there and just not even try and then brag about how he didn't even try, he didn't care, right afterward. Yeah. It was pretty sad, and it wasn't like Rampage didn't have the ability to beat Fedor. Like, you just had to try. You just had to maybe throw a punch at him.
I mean,
maybe
I'll give him credit. He tried to do his little
I didn't watch it.
1-2 roll with the hook that he always does. He did that at least twice. And then after he didn't land with it twice, he was like, all right, it's time to cash this check. Hit me one time, Fedor, please.
Rampage still lost me when he basically is like, I can't fight him because he wrestles. Like, it's called mixed martial arts, bro. This is not boxing.
Like, go to K1 if that's all if you want to kick and punch and that's it. Go to K1, man. Because like that hook, though, like you said, that 1-2 that cover up and he throw the counter hook off that
signature.
And it looks so sloppy though. It looks so bad. It was like he's lunging with that hook just well out. He's diving for it wrong. His weight is all balanced. It really looked like a guy just jumped up off the couch and just started swinging like this. What he looked like to me in that fight was that big dude who might be a tough guy in the street who's at the sports bar watching the UFC like, oh, I could do that. That's what he looked like.
I take our word for it. I'm hearing bad reviews on him, and I didn't watch that. I was watching the Gervonta Davis. I was watching college football last night. I was going. I had college football. I had the Lakers, and I had Gervonta Davis going on. So I was juggling, and I went to the Cotton Bowl yesterday.
Oh yeah, you had a busy day, man. I was in between crying and swaddling. I was trying to watch these fights.
Yeah, man. Papa Ant over there.
And so last one I'll hit you with this. Who would you think is a prospect of the year? I don't even know the dude's name, which is sad. The cat that Evan Trevelyan trains. That dude would get my part. I didn't know who he was. I could barely say his name. But he be whooping people. Every time I see him, he puts a show on. Yeah, Emmett
Shabazz. Yeah, he's the truth. Like I probably will put your man Geoff Neal up there though.
You think he's a prospect though?
Yeah, I mean maybe this win over Mike Perry should boost him into some sort of contendership but yeah, like that's probably the name that stands out the most to me, man. He just had a stellar year, and it was like the action always was there. You saw like a little variety in what he's able to do, and then it's crazy to see such a dominant performance by him after finally quitting his day job, and he focusing full time on training. And you see like, man, this dude, and he went up there and murked Mike Perry. Just murked him like it was nothing.
Yeah. But his confidence, though, like he's on the show this episode, and basically like, you watch Tyron and Kobe. Oh, I know it's gonna go down. Let them do that against me. See what happened. He's like matter of factly like, it's like he wants to smoke without having all the craziness with somebody that wants smoke. He don't have all the theatrics.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy that I got my eye on for 2020. Definitely want to see some big things for him. He would be my prospect of the year if you gun to my head and I had to, or AJ McKee.
Is he a prospect though?
Yeah, that's the thing.
He's like Jay. They're in the same boat.
Yeah, like I can't. It's hard to call him a prospect at this point. I mean, I would say maybe going into 2019, but now. After this year starts and he actually had some dudes with some actual name value added to his resume, like Georgie Kakarian, the way he smoked him, like I AJ McKee, bro, yeah, he's not a prospect anymore, but yeah, shout out to him, man, for a good year.
Yeah, my prospect is Rosenstruck, man. You get 4 wins in a row like that, and now you're already set up to fight against Ngannou. I mean, and you provided us with one of the nastiest moments in MMA history. Like that's one of the nastiest pictures in MMA history. Pictures of Overeem's lips, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. You know what? But I think though too with Rosenstruck, we kind of, I mean, really with all the guys that we named, we kind of run into a wall where are they still prospects? Because in the same year, within a month, he smoked a former champion. And then knocked out a former Strikeforce and Dream champion within a month. He did that. So, and he's got a fight set up against I'm guessing, was he the number 2 ranked heavyweight Ngannou? So you're gonna have you have a problem now when calling the guy a prospect when he's about to fight that high up in the position. Yeah. So
we had an off air conversation. It was exactly like you sort of hit spot on. It's like, is it a prospect? He's like, I'm in the top 5 because it's so shallow.
That same thing like what we saying about AJ McKee and what we saying about Geoff Neal's win over Mike Perry. It's like certain guys that you get through are you really a prospect? So I probably would have to dig deep on the roster to find that one guy that stands out. But those are the guys that we mentioned are guys that we watched all 2019 with high hopes and very curious as to what they had to offer. Like, probably I would say Aaron Pico was that guy too coming into it, but he didn't have the best of 2019s. But I'm sure he'll bounce back as well. Like, man, I just because since I'm on my phone right now and I'm not on my laptop and I'm trying to avoid the crying going on the other side of my house. The laptop and start looking at some names like, oh yeah, I forgot about that dude, and hit y'all with some stats and act like I said it off the top. So I'm just going to shrug my shoulders.
That's all good.
If I want, this is a bonus with Matt. Me and Matt haven't talked about this. Who's your fighter of the decade? Mine's I've gone back and forth because I'm adding everything in, and I don't know. The thing that comes up because there is no clear association with PEDs, and he didn't lose this decade, is GSP.
I'm not mad at that.
Because there's accusations, but we have no failed tests or nothing. And the fact that him coming back and fight, if he didn't come back and fight Bisping and get a belt at a higher weight class, that's what sold it for him. Because John Jones, my whole thing with him is he has failed a test, regardless of what it's multiple. So it's like I only wait outside the octagon, but it's like he has too much cloudiness. So the best clear cut one I could come up with was GSP. But you can make a case for somebody like Ms. Nunes too.
Yeah, thing is with when you're talking about any discussions of fighters, who's the greatest and all that stuff, if you're factoring PEDs, then things get really complicated. But GSP and Demetrius Johnson will probably be the guys that you go to that haven't failed a test I forgot about him. So those would be the guys that you probably can point to. But the thing is, though, the PED testing clearly is flawed. There are clearly some things wrong with how these procedures are handled. The science itself is evolving. And then on top of that, we're ignoring the fact that the UFC in particular, which is the most regulated and tested, in MMA, period, they've only been under this strict testing for a few years now. And you have 20-something years of history where Deuce is probably doing everything under the sun. And it just was what it was. So while we can say that okay, Anderson, failed a test, so he's out of the running. I mean, who's to say that half the dudes that Anderson ran through weren't juiced up out of their minds either?
Exactly. That's the thing about BuzzFeed.
We know some were. We know some.
Yeah, exactly. We know a few.
But the fact that GSP didn't get no losses the whole decade, and like I said, when you murk through everything, he's the most safest bet, I should say. You can never go with somebody else. I forgot. And DJ is because of lack of competition. He gets knocked by that. You're gonna fight who you fight, but look at people at GSP's resume though.
I don't agree with that at all.
But why would we keep up with resumes then?
Because
why would we keep up with resumes then?
Kendrick, calm down. DJ was there from the inception of the division. Therefore, there could be no other champion to knock off. He was the one that stood at the top of that division from its inception to when the UFC was like, we don't know what to do with you anymore. We don't know how to promote gaming. We'll trade you for Ben Askren. So, I mean, look, I would put DJ up there.
He's
but,
second. I'm saying
I'm going with John Jones. I'm not even factoring in the PED thing.
John Jones is mine as well for a fighter of the decade. But I factor in the PED thing, though, but for a different reason. John Jones is one of the catalysts for reform in the PED game.
That is true.
Yeah.
They literally moved an entire event for this guy.
Yeah,
see that part alone right there qualifies you.
And with John, it's like I'm not a hard. Oh, he took PED. The fact that I was there when that whole stuff broke with that test, I think it was more disciplinary, and they used it as a smokescreen because it never came back as a positive or even a negative. They never said, "Oh, the one that had the year suspension." They say it was an inconclusive test.
200.
No, that was the other one.
Well,
214.
Yeah, that's when we started talking about the picograms and all that shit.
Yeah. Because they never really said they said it was never conclusive. How the hell in 2019 you have no conclusive tests? It's got to be one or the other with all this testing.
Like we say, the science is evolving. So because of that, they're trying to reform how they're testing. They're trying to reform how they interpret the results, and that's a big deal. That's a game changer. Like and for reasons like that, if you said your fighter of the decade was Nate Diaz, I wouldn't be mad at you either, because beyond just what they've done in the cage, it's like changing the sport as a whole, changing the culture of the sport as a whole has a lot of impact. Jones was able to have that impact on the culture, on the sport itself, while destroying everybody that was in front of him, while not actually losing a belt in competition. Like, and the controversy around his name is like he hit every facet of what it is to be a pop culture figure / combat sports athlete in the 2010s.
And he brought in Nike for a minute.
He brought in Nike. Yeah, he John Jones lost endorsements with Nike and Reebok within a year span.
Yeah, he single-handedly brought in Nike and allowed who else had it for a minute? Anderson had it for a minute. JDS had it for a minute, and then he single-handedly was responsible for Nike saying, "Nah, we don't need to mess with this."
Yeah.
Would you dock whatchamacallit? Would you dock Conor for losing? Because Conor had the whole package minus the losses, though. If he wouldn't have lost to Nate, he could have been in the running, because he changed the game and the whole Mayweather bit as a whole. He gave the blueprint. Hey, you effers, we need to make more money. We're not valued. He put a spotlight. They just didn't get the memo.
Yeah, see, the thing, Conor, if you said Conor was a fighter of the decade, I have absolutely no complaint about that, because he, too, literally changed the game. Like, I've been saying this for a long time, that Conor McGregor is an agent of change. So he changed the way people, like, you remember a point in time where you never heard a UFC fighter say anything bad about Dana White. You never heard them say anything bad about the UFC, unless you were talking about, like, Randy Couture or the Shamrocks or something like that. Or Tito, maybe. You're talking about like a few people, but the moment Conor, gives a middle finger to anyone who doesn't do exactly what he wants, how he wants, when he wants, then all of a sudden all these other fighters start talking trash about the UFC as well. They start being defiant. They start demanding things. And while a lot of those demands, a lot of their trash talk and whatnot has been grossly unsuccessful and really underwhelming in so many different ways, the fact that they're doing it, the fact that they're being bold enough is a testament to the change that Conor McGregor has ushered into the sport.
Man, both of y'all, man. Did you see have you seen the promo for him like on ESPN and like Connor's Cup? That was so sick. I'm like, I have to go back and see like how many was I actually there for? Because my all-time favorite was the Mink dance. He came out there at 205 and he won the fight on that press conference right there. Your man Eddie Alvarez was F'd the rest of the week. From that Thursday on to that Saturday, he was just too emotional, and we know what happened. But he won the press conference literally by doing that little bit.
All right, so here's one I want to throw at y'all, because and just off of UFC 205, what came to mind. Now, if we're talking about the greatest performances, individual performances of the decade in mixed martial arts, Conor's win over Eddie Alvarez is it to me. I would put that probably as the best performance, period.
I was there. If I would give it to Nunes, because nobody had done that to Cyborg ever. We see Eddie Alvarez get hurt. We didn't even see Cyborg get hurt, and she put her out in a minute. If it wasn't for that, because that's my best one for being there in person, so I know exactly where you're coming from. But if she did the Cyborg, what she did to Cyborg, of all the outcomes, nobody in America, in the world, saw that coming.
Well, I was at the Nunes and Cyborg fight, so I was at that. Yeah, we're opposite. But the thing is, like Cyborg was able to land a good shot on Nunes. It's just
catch her twice before she knocked her out.
Yeah. But Eddie didn't touch Conor. Conor schooled him in every shape and form. Like he was masterful. It was, to me, it was even more dominant than Anderson over Forrest Griffin, where it just looked like somebody who had a cheat code to a video game.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It was just just styling on you.
100%.
Like that was.
But
That was.
I'm not gonna I won't say you're completely wrong because you have to add in the champ thing. I'm always about it was that easy. Everybody was doing it. He was the first one to do it.
Yeah.
And it's at MSG. Just that stage.
Yeah.
It was the first time at MSG. Even doing it today, it'd still be a big deal, but not at that spot at that time. First time UFC ever. Yeah. So I can see how that puts it over the top.
Yeah, that moment was
moment. Like I was at MSG a month ago, 2 weeks ago for the boxing, and that's like the only UFC shot. That fool with the damn belts.
Yeah,
that's how big a deal that was.
Yeah, that was something. That was so that was my performance of the decade. I'm sorry I sprung that on you, so y'all might not.
That's cool. I'm trying to find a way to find out Ronda, but I can't because I don't care what nobody said. We'll never see anybody at a UFC level be getting rid of people in 2 minutes for a multiple year stretch. That would never happen again. That was like once in a lifetime in a bottle.
She was female Hoist Gracie. That's what it was.
Still, but you won't see that again though.
No, we won't see it again. I mean, the sport just evolved. Exactly. Like women's mixed martial arts evolved like right underneath of her.
Exactly. She came at the right time. She's the right person at the right time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the reason why Ronda definitely deserves to be high on the list of fighters of the decade, probably top 3. Top 5 at the very like if you're really doing her a disservice, okay, you put her in the top 5 and not the top 3.
That's the only reason.
She's got to be 3.
Outside the cage, the way she changed the game outside the cage.
Well, inside as well, yeah.
As well, but the thing that puts her down from number 1 in my opinion is just she just wasn't doing it as long. Like it was like a really period of time.
The crazy thing that people don't really realize, her entire mixed martial arts career took place in this decade. Her entire career, her first pro fight was in 2011, I believe.
Yes.
So her entire career, her entire run was in this last 10 years where she ran through people, changed the game for women's MMA, got women's MMA into the UFC, got all her whole movie deals, that whole massive wave she was riding till she got head kicked into oblivion. I mean, yeah, she's got to be at least top 3.
Yeah,
at least.
I don't even realize it just shows you where the sport is, how many baby steps it's in. 25 years ain't shit in the big scheme.
It's not. It's really not.
It's really not. The thing is, we're seeing so much evolve in the sport right now, and I think even from a technique standpoint, especially from a technique standpoint, we are seeing the sport change. Like city kickboxing is changing things, like the way they use feints and stuff. Like remember when GSP training with Freddie Roach and he came up with that sharp jab against Koscheck, and that was such an evolution.
Yeah,
like a jab was an evolution. Like that's how young this sport is. A feint is an evolution. That's how young this sport is, and those are things that are just commonplace in other striking arts.
Yeah, and a lot of things, like the people I compare MMA and boxing, since I've been around like the stars in both of them admire stuff. Like a lot of those guys like the deal. Like some prime example, Dominic Reyes. You'll see something that Canelo's done and Deontay Wilder. He'll try against John Jones. Whether it works or not, we don't know. But you're gonna see a feint and some hooks that John Jones ain't used to seeing because these younger guys study both of them, like you said, and they're involving. Just like even in the wrestle game, people don't just get you down like they used to, and I'm going to sit here and grind you up. They get you down. They trying to do some work. And they can't do some work, they're going to try to set you up just to like use you against the cage. Like everything's evolved. It's more than just you got to be a jiu-jitsu guy. You got to be a legit mixed martial artist or you going to come take them else.
Like you don't see people playing guard games anymore.
It's like, what you doing? You see somebody doing
it's like, whoa, you closing your guard? Like, why, fam? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like that's it's so much stuff is changing, and I think we've seen like a few techniques here and there that all of a sudden get this life breathed into them. Like Anderson's front kick against Vitor Belfort, I think that was 2010. I think when he did that, 2011 when he did that. And then everybody started getting front kick, get that front kick to the chin. Like, so we see these little nuggets of nuance get introduced to the technique of the sport. And this decade has been so ripe with that, man. It's been a lot of just interesting little things that have happened to kind of kind of flesh out what we expect of fighters. Now it's kind of like you come into the game with a BJJ black belt. You come into, and that's just almost standard now. Like it's nothing for someone to have a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt if they're fighting at a UFC or Bellator level.
Yes.
But to me, I know Matt rolls. I don't roll. I defer to him on that stuff. But to me, that stuff don't mean anything because that was like, oh, he's a black belt and such and such. But it's like you see somebody like John Jones, he ain't a black belt and shit. But you see what he be doing.
But you're also talking about like the greatest single talent that's ever walked the face of the earth.
But don't you agree though? There's somebody that we don't know about this decade that we're gonna know about 5 years from now that's gonna have something that's gonna be complete similar to John Jones, but on a higher another level just because they studied him and they might be a better athlete than him.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's part of the sport changing. Like, that's part of things changing. So yeah, we can definitely expect that to pop up at some point.
I'm looking for this next decade. I don't care who it is. I want to see that person that's like, man, we were looking for you for the last 6-7 years. Here go that guy without the extra shit.
Yeah, that person is out there. It's just a matter of time for them to be revealed. They're training somewhere right now. They're probably getting their first stripe on their white belt as we speak, and just starting their journey, And
on the female side, I think we're gonna find somebody that's gonna the person that's gonna be is gonna have that Ronda personality, be technical like Valentina, and be able to kind of like be able to flow, so to speak, like Joanna. That's that female person is gonna have a little mix of great fighters to be that, but they got to have the Vonda with the brashness and talking shit to go with. Like Valentina, if she talked more noise, even though she's lost to Amanda Nunes, she would look higher than what she is, but she just goes out like a machine to do her thing. So people in the sport see her, but people outside of MMA don't know who the hell she is.
Man, but if anybody doesn't need to talk trash, it's Valentina Shevchenko. That woman is about that life. Like,
she
is about that life. Like, her before, like 2 weeks before one of her fights, her coaches get into a shootout in a restaurant in Peru and got shot. He's cornering her like 2 weeks later. Like, yeah, that camp is about that life. They don't need anything other than step foot in the cage. They are badasses eternally. So I ain't going to come down here. I ain't trying to catch one, man.
I know you don't cover boxers much, but does it trip you out the fact that like I tell Matt all the time, like boxing people are legitimately about that life. MMA people will sit there and pose on social media and stuff and be like, oh, I really like you. That's just Twitter. That's just Instagram. But the people in boxing, like I've seen people like, yeah, I'm Sly Guy 69. I told you, motherfucker, online I was gonna see you at the fight. Like they about that life. To the point we got trainers / fathers slapping people in the media, and I've seen get into with other fighters and stuff. Like true story.
Well, I think you can look at a couple different aspects of that. First off, you see where the pedigree of a lot of fighters in MMA compared to a lot of boxers. The difference is a lot of the grappling culture is people who come from better classes, or I should say better class or higher class or whatever. But like they normally have more money, or they have more education. You're talking about college educated wrestlers. You're talking about to train jiu-jitsu is a very expensive thing. Gis ain't cheap. So you're talking about someone who probably has a little more money. They can train in a gi. But for boxing, like you live in the hood and there's a boxing gym right around the corner that's cheap.
Yeah.
And the dudes in there are super legit. And I know all three of us have been inside of those places. Where it's slam in the hood and everybody in there is legit. Mm-hmm. So that's more of the culture there because you don't need as much equipment. You don't need a uniform. You just need some gloves, and you can get gloves for $30.
Yes.
It costs. When I first moved out to the LA area, I was pricing out schools that I could train at and whatnot. And couple of jiu-jitsu schools I was looking at, man, you're talking about $250, $300 a month.
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah, easy.
Damn. Yeah, easy. But you can only train 3 classes a week, like stuff. But to get the unlimited package, you got to pay $400. Like that's a lot of money.
Yes,
that's a lot of money to spend on a hobby, recreation.
Exactly.
So you're going to have you thin out the pool of people who are going to make it beyond a certain point. You thin out the pool of people who come from backgrounds where you got to be about that life through that.
Yeah,
Look at the history between the Gracie family and Lucha Libre, and that'll give you some insight into the differences in class as far as some elements of these combat sports go. So for boxing, and then another aspect too, is like the boxers on a higher level make more money than MMA fighters at that same level.
Bro.
So for MMA fighters, they like, hey, we're trying to get that money. So we're going to talk shit to each other, and hopefully we get some money. Where the boxer may not have to because he got his money.
Yeah.
We were just talking about how Chavez Jr. just fleeced everybody at Matchroom and DAZN for the bill that he made off that garbage performance against Danny Jacobs, and what should have been $3 million had he made weight.
Right.
So. You talking about you showed up and did that and you got $2 million? You showed up and did that. You didn't even make weight. You got penalized and you still got $2 million. Well, shit, trash talk just going to hit me a little different. Than if I'm making $50,000 to show, $50,000 to win, and the company just sold for $4.2 billion. I'm sorry, like. Yeah. And I see the guy who's trash talking making the millions. Yeah, me and Matt Wells, we're gonna fight each other, but you know what? We're gonna call each other and be like, hey man, let's jazz this up a little bit. I'll shove you at the press conference if you shove me. Okay.
100%.
Not to mention too that the kissing cousins relationships between mixed martial arts and pro wrestling, where where people adopt these storylines and they adopt these personas and these characters. And you just don't see that in boxing as much for the reasons.
I think it's the money factor. That's me and Matt. Yeah. That's one thing we do agree on. You don't have that because it's money. Because I'm like, this is a sport at the end of the day. But
it goes back to the infancy. It goes back to the infancy of MMA at high level, man. Because the money's not right. The rights for these fighters still aren't right, and it's just something that's going to get. I think it will get resolved over time, but I still think we're looking at another 5 years down the road at the very least before we start to see some meaningful change in that department. And that's a whole other discussion we can go on for another hour about when we talk about fighter pay in the UFC and their rights and all the union stuff and all that kind of jazz. That multiple failed efforts on that end. Because
me and Matt got to a discussion a couple of shows ago about there have to be a storyline for you to care. I don't have to have a storyline, but when you really think about it, boxing, MMA, they had to have a storyline to sell themselves to get you into it. So that's why it's important for their pay. Where boxing, people either like people used to pay to watch Floyd because they didn't like him. He had no storyline. Or you got somebody.
Okay. Exactly.
Or you got somebody like Danny Garcia. He don't have a storyline. He gonna go up in there and fight a nobody dude. I watch boxing. I don't even know who that dude is. It's a person that's ranked in the WBC rankings. He's gonna make a meal or two, and he's gonna fight on Showtime at the beginning of January.
Yeah, but the thing is, even though boxing may not have as many storylines, whenever it does have a storyline, it's a big deal.
Fury Wilder 2, your boy gonna be there live in the color, 5 on the side.
It was a storyline at the first one. It's a bigger storyline in the second. Canelo and Floyd was a storyline. Floyd versus whoever was a storyline. Canelo versus Triple G. Both those fights were storylines attached to it. So the storyline is something that's always going to boost the bottom line. It always will. It just may not happen as much in boxing, but you notice every time it does, because that means normally when the storyline enters in boxing, it isn't just Kendrick Johnson and Matt Wells watching. It's and Walker watching. It's going to be the people who aren't fans of Slip and Dip, who don't have no idea what Slip and Dip is, or no idea what Sure Dog is, or Walkout Network, or nothing like that.
Right.
They are just sports fans.
Yes.
So the storylines hit the sports fans, and in fact, those storylines hit the Super Bowl. They hit the NBA Finals. Like we just talking about the Clippers versus Lakers, and the rivalry attached to that, or the Celtics versus Lakers. Like, storyline has always been a part of sport because it is entertainment, and entertainment, you need a plot.
100%. That's a good place to stop it for now, man. We appreciate you coming on. Great 2019 in the books, man. I can't wait to get you back on for 2020
for sure.
To talk about these early storylines as they start to unfold.
I want to see you at a fight, man. I'll be doing both sides. I'm making
down
my
to Houston,
USC
bro.
return at 2:40. I get my numbers mixed up. Is it 2:47?
So one of them.
The one in Houston.
Oh yeah, if this little joker in my living room right now, if he lets me off the hook, maybe
go.
I.
Yeah, man.
Fight week. Make your return fight week in July. He'd be
Vegas,
a
out there in
little
Vegas.
bit older. He'd be kicking back with you.
Oh yeah, and next time there's a card in LA, there should be a live slip and dip.
Oh, yeah.
Try
Jump on that
to
or
get my man on the West Coast.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
We need to get these listeners to buy some more merch, and we'll make things happen.
Yeah, in fact, I'm gonna get some. I'm gonna wear it on my channel, man. As soon as I get a hoodie or something.
For sure. Well, we appreciate you coming on, brother. We'll let you get back to your fatherly duties and enjoy the rest of your evening. And we'll be yelling at you soon, man.
Yes, sir. Love y'all. Peace.
Please welcome to the Slip and Dip podcast, making Slip and Dip debut. Having us cap off 2019 in style, Mr. Dan Canobbio, host of Inside Boxing Live on Pluto TV, and he's an on-air contributor for PBC on Fox and Triton Fights. Did I get them all?
Yeah, I also do some work with Lou DiBella with Broadway Boxing. Yeah, I wear a lot of different hats, and thank you for having me on.
The Hall of Famer Lou DiBella, that's my guy.
Yeah, I love Lou. Great guy, and I do some ringside reporting for Broadway Boxing, part of the broadcast team. So, busy guy, a lot of boxing, and end of the year, a lot of good discussions to be had. I'm happy to join you guys.
So who's your fight of the year? We'll get straight to it. Who you got for fight of the year 2019?
Coming out swinging early on with the big questions. I like that. Canelo Alvarez is my fighter of the year. I feel like there were a lot of fighters that did some good things this year. There was a lot of great performances. But if you take a look at what Canelo did, fighting Daniel Jacobs, who was a top 3 middleweight, unifying titles at middleweight, and I thought he beat him decisively. And then you drop up 2 weight classes to defeat another top 3 champion at 175, and that was Sergey Kovalev. And you do it like how he did with the knockout. I just think that no one's doing those types of things in the game today. So Canelo Alvarez would be my fighter of the year. Close second would be Manny Pacquiao. At age 40, still being able to go out there and beat guys 10 years younger than him. Adrian Broner, and then that win over Keith Thurman I thought was one of the most electrifying wins of 2019 for any fighter. So it would be Canelo and Manny Pacquiao, but clearly I think Canelo is a cut above the rest this year for fighter of the year.
I got Canelo and Errol Spence. He beat 2, I'm pretty sure Mikey Garcia, surefire Hall of Famer, and I'm pretty sure Sean Porter will find his way in, and he beat him. I won't say convincingly because the Porter fight was close, but that's my number 2. I definitely agree with you on Canelo. I was there at the Jacobs fight because Canelo, who's known as a brawler, the Mexican style, basically outslicked the slick boxer in Jacobs and won that fight rather easily. And then the way he beat Kovalev, it's not really necessarily the way he ended. It's the fact that he had enough confidence to know that he can knock out this bigger guy. He didn't care about rounds. He basically pulled a Wilder on a smaller level and no, I'm going to time this guy. When I catch him, it's going to be all she wrote. And exactly what happened. So to have that swag at 175, this ain't James Kirkland. This ain't Amir Khan.
Right.
And I was at those fights too. So to see him going against a bigger guy was impressive to me.
Yeah, I mean, Canelo Alvarez, think about his year, too. He signed this massive deal. I know that was at the end of 2018, but that Rocky Fielding fight really didn't count on this new deal he signed with his own. So he had a lot of pressure heading into 2019, one of the biggest deals in sports money-wise, and he went out there and delivered on his end. He had big fights. He brought eyeballs to the sport. He brought eyeballs to the zone, and he did it in spectacular fashion with Danny Jacobs and then there with Sergey Kovalev. But, yeah, you can't go wrong with your top 3 this year. I think Canelo just did enough, but, Spence had an outstanding year, beating Mikey Garcia, the guy that he was supposed to beat, and he did it in front of 50,000 people at Cowboy Stadium, and he did it the way that not a lot of people thought he would do. People thought he would just walk over him, but he actually outboxed Mikey Garcia, who's considered a master boxer, and then, of course, beating Sean Porter in another pay-per-view. So great year for Errol Spence. Unfortunately, it ended not on the best note with the car accident, but according to what we've seen, he'll bounce back for another great year in 2020. But those are some really good fighters of the year this year. But just Canelo, I thought just did more than the rest.
Who you got?
100%. Yeah. I agree with you on the fighter of the year. I think Canelo was the hands down fighter of the year. I mean, I don't think anybody is close per se. I mean, you can make an argument for second place, but I think it's Canelo all the way. The more intriguing argument, I think, is what is fight of the year, because there's, I think, some more closer candidates when you think about that. And I know which way I'm going to go, but I want to hear your opinion on fight of the year first.
So I'm a little different when it comes to fight of the year. Obviously, there was a lot of like back and forth fights. You know, J-Rock and Hurd comes to mind. Porter and Spence come to mind. Inoue and Donaire go up and down the list of really close fights. But to me, fight of the year, it's more than just the actual what happens in the ring. I think you have to think of the scope of the fight, the magnitude of the fight, and I think that no fight this year brought more people together and brought not just boxing fans, all sports fans together than Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz in their first fight. I know it only lasted 7 rounds, but I also think a fight of the year has to have momentum swings. It has to have moments where you think either guy can win. And I think a lot of us thought that Joshua was going to keep Ruiz down when he knocked him down in the first time in the fight. I thought that Joshua was going to coast to a win. Next thing you know, he's on his ass from Andy Ruiz. It created, can you curse on this podcast?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
It created an oh shit moment. And you don't get that a lot in boxing, and that was certainly it. The upset and what it meant for Andy Ruiz. I mean, these things don't really happen anymore in boxing. It felt like we were living, in the glory years of the early 90s and in the mid 80s with these upsets and big-time moments where I feel like the entire sports world was, on the boxing world. And that, to me, personally, is my fight of the year.
Oh, I got that number 3. I got the 2 I went to live in person. I got Porter Spence number 1, and one that people are sleeping on was Devinchenko and Triple G. And I saw those fights back to back on opposite coasts, and they're for 2 different reasons. Because very rarely, as you know, in boxing, do we have a fight that lives up to the hype, has an ebb and flow where both people are at their max pretty much in the prime of their careers. We've seen people be at their max, but at the stage of the careers they're in. These guys were in the prime of their careers, and we may not. That's the best Sean Porter. I've seen him win fights in person and not look that good. He lost. And so,
absolutely.
So that's number 1. And then the Triple G Devinchenko had the whole up and down. Nobody really knew who he was. I thought he would give Triple G problems. I had him beating Triple G. That would have even made it even better. In fact, it was back at the Garden because of what happened with Ruiz. So it's all kind of come together. But those are my top 2 for 2019.
I mean, you can't go wrong with any of those fights. Like, the year started off a little slow.
Very.
We got, news-wise, we thought we were going to get the rematch between Fury and Wilder, but Fury went to sign with ESPN. That kind of put that fight on halt. And then Fox rolled out their 2019 schedule, and right away we got Spence fighting Mikey Garcia, that announcement. So we're like, oh man, and 2019 is going to get off to a slow start. It did start a little slow, but the second half of 2019 was massive. Like, all the fights that we just listed all happened from June on the second half of 2019, and you can't go wrong with Porter and Spence. That was like a back and forth fight, had ebbs and flows, and Derevchenko and Golovkin, being ringside for that, counting the punches for CompuBox, one of the most brutal fights I've seen in a really long time. I actually felt like almost sick to my stomach when I left that arena because those guys were just beating on each other for 36 consecutive minutes just for our entertainment. So, yeah, those were really good fights. There's so many good fights this year. It's hard to list just one, but I went outside of the norm a little bit, and I thought that a lot of the fights that you just named were so back and forth and so close. I was like, let me just go one step further and find a fight that did something for boxing and, created like a new type of narrative. And I thought that was what Ruiz did to Joshua.
Yeah, you definitely can't go wrong. 100%. The Devinchenko, I agree with you, it was a very brutal fight. I didn't feel bad for them, but at the same time, it's kind of crazy when when the fight's over with, neither fighter's coming to the post-fight press conference, and that's exactly what happened. You knew that you exactly that. I'll see you next time around, Triple G. I'll catch you around.
All right.
Let's get the hospital.
Devinchenko, I didn't see him until that Charlo fight before the Crawford fight. I saw him at Barclays Center like 2 months later, or a month and a half later.
Yeah, it was a brutal fight. It was absolutely like I said, 12 rounds of just standing in a phone booth, going back and forth. Golovkin certainly getting older before our eyes. He's got only probably a few more big fights left too.
Yeah, Dan, I like the point that you made about Andy Ruiz and Anthony Joshua, because I didn't think of that fight in that magnitude for what it did for boxing as a whole, and made a guy's career that's been around the game for forever, and he finally had that moment. And I don't know if you follow MMA, but Jorge Masvidal kind of had that moment as well this year with his big knockout and the big year that he had. But I think also with I will agree with you on the fact that that should be in the fight of the year candidates, but also that rematch had to be up there with most disappointing rematch of the year or disappointing fight of the year period, right?
I mean, the build-up was huge. I mean, I've never been more excited or haven't been excited for a fight like that in a really long time. And it was cool. It was in Saudi Arabia. It was like, we're watching here in New York, at least on the East Coast. We got up at 12 o'clock and we started the fight. And, so much build-up about the psyche of Anthony Joshua. And, was Andy Ruiz partying so much? The storylines were just like, there were so many storylines. It was like, just felt huge. And then they get into the ring. Speaking of huge, Andy Ruiz took off his shirt. And the dude was 400 pounds. I mean, you're right. It wasn't the most pleasing fight, but I do think it was the only fight that Joshua could do to win. I think that he did exactly what he needed to do in there. He jab, move around. The moments that he stood in there and traded, he almost, got in trouble, or he was like on the doorstep of finding himself in the same situation he was in the first fight. But ultimately disappointing. For sure, especially from the 6 months of the hype leading up to it.
Yeah, man, who was your fight of the year? You didn't say.
Oh, Spence Porter was my fight of the year. Clearly for me. I mean, I just love the fact that they just went at it. They stayed in the phone booth for the majority of the fight. Nobody really went down. I mean, Porter got rocked, took a knee, but he got right back up and still went right back to it. And it's kind of hard to not have that as your number one or not number two. For fight of the year, in my opinion.
And then going down the line, prospect of the year. We had who we think prospect of the year on already on today's show. Vergil Ortiz Jr. That guy is a monster.
Yeah, that's going to be mine too. But just to vary it up and give you a different name, Daniel Dubois, a heavyweight out of London, England, who has massive power. And is a very marketable guy. He's promoted by Frank Warren, so it might be tough for him to get some big fights. Maybe he can head over to ESPN and they can work together with Top Rank. But I think he is a prospect that's certainly on the rise in the heavyweight division. The heavyweight division really top heavy. There's a lot of the top four that everyone talks about. That's Joshua, it's Wilder. I guess I don't know if Ruiz is still in there, but Usyk. As well, and there's a few other fringe contenders like Konagsky and go down the list. But I think Dubois is really banging on the door from being a prospect into a title contender. Same thing with Vergil Ortiz. I mean, Vergil Ortiz is my pick for prospect of the year, but I also wanted to mention Daniel Dubois. I think Vergil Ortiz is one of the best prospects we've seen in years. He's very quiet outside the ring. He's very quiet. Doesn't get a lot of press like, maybe Gervonta Davis or Ryan Garcia or some of the or Tiafimo, but, he's kind of like a workman. Like he goes to work, bring a lunch pail, and he'll go in there and win impressively and do it quietly. But I think that 2020 will be a huge year for Vergil Ortiz I can see that Golden Boy is already trying to position how he can get a title shot, how he can jump up some of the rankings in one of the four governing bodies.
What? This may sound silly. What's the big deal about Usyk as a heavyweight? I know he's a great fighter, but he's early 30s, and he's gonna be way smaller than any of those guys he faced. And I don't know. Like I don't think he's like that Vander Holyfield. Like he can grab a belt, but I don't see him beating Joshua, Wilder, or Fury.
Probably. I don't know. It's really too hard to tell. He only has 7 rounds as a heavyweight against a Chaz Witherspoon, who, I mean, the guy should not have been in the ring with him, but, it wasn't. It is what it is. But we'll see about what Usyk has, because I think that he's rumored to be facing Derek Chisora. If he wins that fight, he's probably going to face Anthony Joshua in the second half of 2020. You have to just put him in the discussion. I don't put him in the top 5. I think he's pound for pound. Great pound for pound top 10 because of the work he did at cruiserweight. But certainly there is a lot of question marks around Usyk. But you have to at least put him in the discussion at heavyweight because of what he did at cruiserweight and the amateur background he has and the footwork. Well, it's gonna be really interesting to see if a guy that's probably gonna get into the ring at 210, 215 could sit there and bang with some of the guys that are coming in at 230, 240. 250, go up and down the bigger heavyweights in boxing right now. And he's also short too. He's not 6'6", 6'7", like some of the heavyweights that are ruling right now.
That's how I'm saying. How can you remotely fight he has a shot against Joshua. He has no shot against a Fury or a Wilder, just for the reach And now I have to see that go down for me to become a believer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, but you know what it is? It's like, at least we have another name that we can throw into
that's
the
true.
heavyweight division. Like I said, it's very top-heavy, the heavyweight division. So whenever we get a new guy on the block, and this year it was Andy Ruiz, and then maybe next year it'll be Usyk, just makes things more exciting.
The thing about Ruiz is we saw when he's in halfway Shanghai he can fight, and from a pure boxing standpoint, the fact that he was that out of shape and then and troubled Joshua at times and went to a full 12 just makes you think, if this dude focused, we saw what he can do. So it's like, I don't know. I got a question mark on him because I got like a uneven feeling because I saw him at his best. I saw him at his worst. So he had a very uneven. So I don't even know how to rank him really.
Yeah, I know. Like, obviously, when he's determined and he's focused, you saw what he did to Joshua, and a big reason why I thought he was able to beat Joshua because he fought like 6 weeks earlier on Fox. So he wasn't enough time to blow up, didn't have time to eat and not train. Because that's been the worst, been the bugaboo for Ruiz his whole career is time. Time has not been good to him. When he has time to not train or he has time in between fights, that's when he gains weight. That's when he doesn't train. That's when he doesn't listen to his trainers. So you're right. Yeah, I'm not counting Andy Ruiz out because of
exactly. I'm one of the few people not.
No, you can't count him out because I think he's the best combination puncher in the heavyweight division. Still, he just has to. It's in his head now. He has to just lose the weight and come focused. And I doubt that he wants to end on that note that he did in December.
Yeah, 100%. So as we put a bow on 2019, man, like what is do you have like a bold prediction or is there something that you really want to see go down in 2020?
Of course, I want to see what every fan wants to see, and that's the biggest fights being made regardless of promotional entities. I'm not going to sit here and tell you some crazy prediction. I just want to see the biggest fights. I want to see the best fight the best. And I will say this, there's the 3 leagues in boxing, de facto leagues in boxing. There's Top Rank and ESPN. There's Showtime, Fox, PBC. That's another league, and there's Matchroom, Golden Boy with DAZN. There's 3 leagues in boxing, and now this is maybe the 3rd year of the 3 leagues where they were seeing a lot of just in promotion fighting or in promotion fights being made. I think that sooner or later these promotional companies are going to run out of options in house. So now they're going to have to reach across the aisle and make the biggest fights in boxing because they have to provide so much content to whoever platform they are aligned with. There are so many dates that have to be filled for these promoters. So I think that that's just one hope is that they run out of fights to be made inside the PBC because you're seeing it already. There's a lot of the same type of fights. It's like a do-si-do of who's fighting who, especially in the welterweight division soon. 154, they're all going to fight each other, and then they're going to run out of options there. So hopefully, once these promoters they can see that we need each other and we're seeing it with Wilder and Fury, the rematch, but that's at the highest level, and that's also because both guys don't really have many options. Like it's the 3rd time I'll mention this, the heavyweight division, very top heavy. So they're gonna have to fight each other because they have to make good on the investments. Top Rank invested $100 million in Tyson Fury, and I know that PBC is now up their guarantee to Wilder to something like $20 million at least per fight. So the only way they can ever make money back on their investment on these heavyweights is if they fight each other. I don't think that's the case in the welterweights just yet. I don't think that Spence has to fight Crawford. I think that Spence could fight Pacquiao. Spence could fight Danny Garcia, and they will make a profit on that. But sooner or later, the economics of it are not going to allow it. And then finally, we'll see more fights between different promotional companies.
Yeah. Hey, I couldn't say it better myself, man. I'm tired of all the wrong side of the street, quote unquote, talk. I just want to see the best fight the best, and I think that's what that's what would be best for boxing. Yeah, period. I mean, I don't want to see the rise of the YouTube fights, man. I'm tired. We had one. I don't want to see no more.
The thing with those is, when I first heard about that fight, I was like, oh, what are we doing here? I mean, come on, are we really going to put this on? But apparently, it brought a lot of subscribers to DAZN, and it made them a lot of money. And if they can use that money to keep it going, because I think DAZN is the best value for fight fans today. I think it's better than pay-per-view. I think that for $100 a year, and DAZN, they look at the fights that they put on this year, it's the best thing they got going. If they can keep that going, and if it takes 1 or 2 or 3 YouTube fights a year to do that, then I'm all for it. But as long as they don't embarrass the sport, I mean, Logan Paul and the other guy, KSI, they came in shape. I've seen worse fights, to be honest with you fellas. Like I watch a lot of fights working for CompuBox. I saw a lot worse fights than that. But as long as if they're making money for DAZN and DAZN's putting the money back into the product, then I'm all for it.
Thanks for coming on, Dan. I know you're a busy guy, man. Look forward to seeing you at a fight, man. I'll be at Fury Wilder too. So
I'll be there too, man. We'll have to meet up at Radio Row. That's going to be epic fight weekend in Vegas. I'm so pumped for that. Thank you for having me on, and I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your time, brother. Have a good New Year.
You too.
Happy New Year.